Good.
Yep. Good evening. I call the May 8th, 2025 meeting of the Park Hill Board of Education to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for silencing your phones tonight. I would like to remind the board of our norms. Stay in the role of a board member, be respectful, be inclusive, be prepared, and be mission driven. And the Park Hills mission statement is through the expertise of an engaged staff, the Park Hill School District provides a relevant education in a safe, caring environment to prepare each student for success in life. Board members, any announcements this morning? Ms. Barnes?
Hello. I would like to tell all the mothers, grandmothers, aunties, those who do mother roles, happy Mother's Day this weekend. Very grateful for my own. And just a little note, you know, what some of us mothers do, or a little note. You tell me that you love me when I don't love myself. You're the one who holds my hand when I need the most help. You smile when you make me smile when I'm sad. You make my life so much better by everything you do. So, thank you, moms.
Yes, hear, hear, well said. Mr. Todd?
Yeah, so this week is Teacher Appreciation, Staff Appreciation, and Public Service Recognition Week. And this last Monday, the board had the privilege to accompany district administrators in visiting each of our buildings to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation to each of the people who make education, the education of our Park Hill students, possible. Engaging in public service takes a special kind of person. Such work is a commitment to our neighbors and also to ourselves, and it requires a belief in the power and the agency of not only the individual, but also their community as a whole. The people who choose to dedicate themselves to this work must have empathy, generosity, creativity, and patience. Mm-hmm. And it's clear that our teachers and staff have these qualities in spades. So with that, I would like to thank them all for who they are, because that's what makes them able to do this work and to do this work so well each and every day.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. Mrs. Woodley?
Yeah, I was going to just say the same thing about staff appreciation, but Mr. Todd wrapped it all up very nicely. At times when we were going through the buildings, it was almost like a battle of like, no, I appreciate you. No, I appreciate you. And I'm like, I know it's about you today, not being a board member. But we just have wonderful staff here at Park Hill. Also wanted just to say congratulations to all the students and staff for all the achievements this year. And good luck to all of our graduates on the next step in their journey of their life. And everybody have a great summer. I know we're not there yet, but we're getting close. So that's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Woodley. Mm-hmm. Mr. Monses?
No, thank you.
Ms. Boland?
I'll just kind of echo the statements for Staff Appreciation Week. Thank you so much for all of our staff and all the work that you do. And it was a privilege to go around on Monday and thank people in person. So I hope the appreciation is felt.
Thank you. Mrs. Barber?
None, thank you.
Yeah, I also had the privilege on Monday of going to, where did I go to? I went to Plaza Middle School, Park Hill South, English Landing, Tiffany Ridge, and Prairie Point. So we covered some ground. And yeah, it's just amazing to get into the classrooms and be able to speak directly and appreciate the people that are doing the work every day that makes this district great. So yeah, so happy celebration season. We have a full boardroom tonight with all sorts of celebrations, district art fair, excellence in education awards. Now next is coming up graduations, professional studies capstones. There's just a lot to celebrate in the district over the past weeks and coming weeks. So thank you, everyone, and you're all appreciated. All right, Dr. Kimbrell. Oh, yeah.
I just want to say one student, when we were walking, Ms. Woodley and I, and so I was like, I gave the teacher something, and I was like, here you go, thank you so much for your doing. He came and hugged me, and he said, thank you for loving my teacher. And I just was like, this made my day the best day ever, you know. So I just want to again say thank you to the staff, because that that young man coming to me, hugging me, telling me thank you for loving his teacher lets me know that we have some great people in this district.
Awesome. All right, Dr. Kimball, do you have any announcements?
I think it's been said across the room here, but I'd like to thank the board for spending their day Monday to come and recognize our staff. And I know that that's taken time out of your days. And so I appreciate that. They are certainly deserving. And I hope it was, as I heard all the way around the table, well received. Just a couple things coming up as well in our celebration season. Next week, a week from today, actually, Thursday, May 15th, we have a ribbon cutting at Angeline Washington Elementary, which is our 12th elementary. So that's at 5:30 and the public's invited. And then graduations are right around the corner. I see some students in the room. How many of you are seniors? Okay, a couple. They're getting itchy, I bet, big time. And Park Hill High School on the 17th and Park Hill South on the 19th at Hy-Vee Arena. That's all I have.
Great. Okay, we'll move on to item 2, adoption of the agenda. We'll need a motion and a second to adopt the May 8th, 2025 agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion from Mrs. Woodley and a second by Mr. Todd to adopt the agenda as presented. Dr. Kimbrell, are there any modifications tonight?
None tonight, thank you.
Board, do you have any modifications? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Any abstained? All right, motion carries 7-0. All right, we'll now move on to recognitions and awards. We have a lot of those tonight, so Mrs. Weichel, I will turn it over to you.
Good evening. Hello. Check, check. Thanks for being here tonight. I'm going to have Ben Turley come up first. I saw Ben earlier. Come on, Ben. Ben's going to come stand right here next to me, and we're going to talk about Ben for a moment. This is a Walden Middle School student, Ben Turley, and he's here because he received the 24-25 Middle Level Student Council Member of the Year Award from the Missouri Association of Student Councils. As part of this honor, he's headed to the MASC Summer Leadership Camp this summer in June at William Woods University in Fulton, and it's going to bring together almost 600 of Missouri's top student leaders. Ben, congratulations. We're going to say a few words. Also, Ben's family waved to us. Grandma was here as well. Everybody waved to us. Hello. Okay, Ben, say a few words about what this means for you. What is this? What are you doing this summer?
This summer, I will be going to William Woods College, as she said, to learn more about Stuco and how to make our community a better place and our schools a better place. Stuco means so much to me. It's taught me how to be a better leader. It's taught me how to make connections, and it's just taught me how to be able to interact with my community better and help to get my community involved better. And I can't thank my 2 advisors enough for helping me out.
Excellent job. Congratulations. You're going to shake the board's hand now. Go around the circle and shake their hand. Good job, Ben. And good speech on the fly. That was excellent. We do make them on the fly say a few words, so this is good preparation. Congratulations, Ben. Miss Todd Murphy is going to take your photo out in the hall, right out there, okay? All right, next, if you're here for DECA, come on up. That's all of you guys here in the front couple rows. Come stand right here next to us, please. Hi. Yeah, if you're tall, be careful. Isabel, be careful. Okay, so these are DECA students, and they're from all 3 of our high schools, Park Hill High, South, and Lead. And I'm going to let them do most of the talking, but we're here to recognize them tonight because these are students who attended the International Career Development Conference in Orlando, and they're going to talk to you a little bit about that national recognition they received, and I'll let them do the talking for us. So, again, name, where you go to school, what you did in Orlando. Fair enough? Okay. If you're a senior, where are you going to school next year?
Hey guys, I am Hudson Sadowski. I'm not a senior, I'm a junior. I go to Lead Innovation Studio. My favorite of the 3 high schools. And in Orlando, I learned a lot about marketing and how these business conferences typically go. Obviously, they're very popular. And I think it was just such an incredible opportunity for all of us to get to act professionally, learn what it's like in the real business world. And I just wanted to thank everyone who supported me, all of my advisors and all of my friends. So.
Good job. Chamberlain's next. This is for you. Okay.
Hi guys, my name is Chamberlain Webster. I'm a junior at Park Hill. This is my first year in DECA. And in Orlando, I was chosen as one of the Missouri representatives for the Ignite Leadership Academy. I've been really grateful to be a part of this experience. I've been able to meet just such great people, the people standing right next to me. I've been able to make connections, especially in Orlando, with people from around the country, from around the world, and I'm really grateful to be a part of this. And thank you to my advisor, and thank you to my parents for always supporting me.
Okay, I'm Lily Moore. I'm also a junior, and I also go to Lead Innovation Studio. In Orlando, I competed in Principles of Marketing, and it was a really cool and unique experience, especially because it's my first year in DECA. That was a really fun experience. And I also was able to win a special award. It's like an award of excellence or something. Because because my scores were high enough, so that was a really cool thing to hear that I got. I'm Addison Hurd. I go to Lead Innovation Studio, and just like Lily, I competed in Principles of Marketing. I think my favorite part of DECA would probably be just getting to know everybody on a different level. Like we got to meet people from Canada, from Saudi Arabia, just people from all over the world. It also gave me a view into what, a career in business and marketing would be. And as much as I respect it, it's not for me. But it was a really great opportunity. And I got to, go out of my comfort zone and do something I didn't think I'd be able to do.
I think your mom's here tonight too. Yeah, she's here at the
Hi, my name is Sean Pachasa. I'm a junior at Lead Innovation Studio, and DECA was an extremely fun experience. I got to network and meet a lot of new people. I got to learn about marketing, hospitality, entrepreneurship, and I forgot to go over this. I went into buying and merchandising. It was a team event with Hudson, who's in the back, and it was a lot of fun. I got, like I said, to meet new people. Got to go to Disney World in Orlando, which were obviously fun. But I couldn't be more thankful. I want to thank everybody who made it possible. Mitch Holtz, my mom, for paying for some of the trip and then stuff like that. Thank you.
Good job. Congratulations. Isabel.
Okay, hi, my name is Isabel Tott, and I'm a senior at Park Hill High School, and next year I'll be attending Georgia Tech. I don't know, DECA's just been such a great experience. So when I was at ICDC, I served 2 main roles. I'm a state officer from Missouri, so I served as one of the voting delegates for the National Advisory Board of DECA. So that was really, really fun, being able to vote and choose our next executive officer team. And then I competed with Ava here in the buying and merchandising category. We went to ICDC last year as well, and it was a lot of fun, and we were just able to network with people. And we really, really enjoyed talking to judges and being able to explain our ideas. So it was a great time.
Sure. Good job. Next.
I'm Ava Hubanks. I'm the other half of the team, state champs. What can I say? I'm a senior at Park Hill High School. I'm going to Rockhurst University next year, and I'll be studying business, which freshman me would have never imagined. I went into high school. I wanted to study healthcare, but DECA has completely changed my life, and I'll be studying business next year, which is so crazy to say. So this is my last year in DECA, 4th year in DECA, and it's been the best experience. And I've gone to ICDC so many times, and it changes my perspective every time. And I love being able to talk to people and be super creative in my events, and I just love it. It's a great time. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Carson Smith. I'm a senior at Park Hill South, and I'll be going to UMKC. And DECA has meant a lot to me by teaching me foundational skills of life and not career-specific things, although it does teach career-specific things. It's more about communication and professionalism, which is important to any career. So it's definitely elevated me and able to get new jobs and new opportunities for me.
Okay, if you're a family member, please wave to us. Congratulations to your students. All right, you're going to shake the board's hand. Congratulations, and go take a photo. Okay, Tracy's gonna take your guys' photo. If you guys wanna grab your stuff, and she'll take a photo of you guys out in the hall. Good work. Good work, all right. Do you have a performance tonight, Chamberlain? I know you do. I know, we're trying to let everybody hustle. Okay, we are gonna have all of our art winners shuffle in here momentarily. We wanted to kind of clear these kids out because there's a lot of our art winners as well. And they're gonna file in. You were not wrong that we have a lot of recognitions tonight. Okay, come on in, Tracy. Hi guys, good work, come on in. You guys follow directions really well. We're gonna have you come this way and we're gonna make a little circle behind the board, okay? And keep following me. Yep, follow Dr. Dillon. She will take you where you're going. Good work, everybody. Hi, Hopewell Hawks.
We're gonna go right up to the front, okay?
Keep going.
I think, yeah, Amy, there's quite a few of them.
Yeah, probably right there.
Be careful. Hello. Okay, and we're gonna have parents kind of shuffle in. So parents, come on up here. There's gonna be plenty of room up here. We'll be tight, but come on in, and we'll wait for you all to come in. Come on in, everybody. We might have to stand up here a little bit. We might have to stand over here. We're gonna make everybody fit. Yeah, come on up. Come on up, everybody. We're gonna stand up here a little bit too. Come on in. They're still shuffling in. Thanks everybody for being patient. Still some more. Come on in. You guys can come stand up here in the back. Don't be shy. We'll make everybody fit up here.
Plenty of room in the front.
Come on up, guys. We can be in the front too. Okay, I'm gonna start and then we'll everybody keep shuffling in. So we're here tonight because all of these students that you see up here are winners in our district art festival. And how this works is that Superintendent, Dr. Bridewell, Dr. Kimbrell go around and actually pick best in show in collaboration with our art teachers. So of all the district art fest submissions from every single school, these students were selected for their talents and their artistic prowess in the district art fair. So we're really glad to have you all here tonight, students, and we're really glad to show off your artistic talents. We're gonna start over here. You're gonna remember, say your name and what school you go to, and if you wanna talk a little bit about your art, you can, okay? Couple words. You ready to go first? You go first? Hi. Okay, you say your name, what school you go to, and like a couple words about your art. Sound good? All right, let's go.
I'm Mia Val. I go to Chin Elementary. I'm in 5th grade, and
show them what you did. Everybody, hold. What'd you do?
I did like a pumpkin and a landscape, and I did it with watercolor and oil pastels, and yeah.
Perfect. That was excellent. Good job. Okay, next. You ready? Okay, you can hold that.
My name is Sloan Powers.
There we go.
My name is Sloan Powers, and I go to Southeast Elementary, and I'm in 1st grade, and I did a pattern cat. This is watercolor, and this is oil pastel.
Good work. You did good. Okay, good job. I didn't want to cut you off. Anything else you wanted to say? Okay, good job. All right, next.
My name is Tempa Roberts. I go to Graydon Elementary, and I'm in 2nd grade, and this is the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art.
Yes, it is. Good job. That's beautiful. All right, you're our kindergartner, right? All right, let's go.
My name's
It's working. It's hard.
My name's Rhodes, and I made this out of paint sticks, and that's basically it.
Good job.
My name is Remy Fish, and the school I go to is Union Chapel. I'm in second grade, and this is my koi fish.
My name is Corey Cox, and I go to Hopewell Elementary, and this is my day and night village that we did for our art project in school.
My name is Anya Condon. I'm a 7th grader at Walden Middle School, and this is the frog that I did in watercolored pencil.
My name is Lizzie Landit, and I'm a junior at Park Hill South High School. My art brain got to me today, and I was in the wrong place, so I don't have my art piece with me, but it is a hyper-realistic watercolor portrait of a lime, so maybe at some point we'll get to see it.
My name is Gavin Accurso. I go to Park Hill South, and this is my city oil pastel artwork.
Hi, I'm Jolie Graham. I go to Park Hill High School, and this is my colored pencil self-portrait, Music Makes Me, and how music will always and forever inspire me as an artist.
My name's Annabelle Stapleton. I go to Park Hill High School, and this is my drawing of things that represent me.
My name is Chris Pham. I go to Lead Innovation Studios, and I'm a sophomore. And this is my photograph. I took a photo at Montreal, Canada, in the Notre Dame Basilica.
My name is Lazarus Giffen, and I go to English Landing Elementary, and I made this wolf ear out of metal.
Hi, my name's Andrea Garcia. I go to Park Hill South, and this is my drawing of me and my dog. Our art 8P portfolios, we were pursuing themes, and I chose the emotion of love, and this is depicting grief.
Hi, my name is Christina. I go to Park Hill South, and I made my best friend.
Hi, my name is Paige Washington. I'm a sophomore at Park Hill South, and I drew this in pen and marker of a Billie Eilish eye.
My name is Caleb. I go to Lead, and I made this Viking cat scratch board.
I'm Maddie. I'm a freshman at Park Hill High School, and then this is my mixed media proportion piece.
I'm Harper Humphrey, and I go to Hawthorne Elementary, and I made this mosaic thing because my art teacher told me to.
I love that. Okay, parents wave at us. Thank you for coming, families. Kudos, kids. I call you kids, those students, but kudos. That is talent. Several of these were featured on our social media platforms that got thousands of likes from your peers. Our students like Instagram, and that was very highly engaging. So congratulations, really proud of you. You're going to try to maybe shake the board's hand, and maybe we start.
Go this way.
Yeah, maybe we start over there. Dr. Dial will help you, and we're gonna go shake hands. Congratulations, everybody. Good job, everybody.
Awesome job.
But we're gonna look at the job. I think your artwork's in there, okay? Truly, that's incredible. Good job. Yes. Truly, that's one of my favorites. Good job. I know. Good job. Okay, good job, everybody. Okay, we're gonna go back out and take a photo back where we were, okay? Miss Tracy's gonna take a big photo of you guys. Beautiful work. Yes. Good work. You did great. It was so easy, wasn't it? So easy. Oh, thank you guys for coming. Yep, Miss Tracy's gonna take a picture back in room 230. Oh, I know. She's so talented. I love that. Okay. Okay, we're gonna do Avid next. So English Landing and Lakeview, come on up. We're trying to, thank you for overlapping here. All right, this is fun. That was awesome. I love hearing their own words about their work. It's really awesome to hear. All right, Kevin, come stand over on this way so that the video can see you. The live stream can't see you if you're not over here behind me. No, understood. Okay, we're here to celebrate Avid. And these two schools, Lakeview Middle School and English Landing Elementary, are both two really big top honor winners for our Avid programming. Both of these programs are in the top in the country out of over 8,000 schools. So I'm gonna have them tell you a little bit about Avid for Lakeview and English Landing and why they got this award. Josh, you wanna go first?
Josh Peters, assistant principal over at Lakeview. This year is the 45th anniversary for Avid. So in honor of their 45th anniversary, they did something a little different, and they went and selected the top 45 schools out of all 8,000 schools that have Avid programming in them that they thought best exemplified Avid. So amazing honor to be one of the 45, but even more amazing when we have 2 of the 45 right here in our school district. It's a testament to the work that all of our teachers do each and every day, all of our students work on each and every day. We're extremely honored to be able to be associated with Avid. We know that the college connections, the career connections, just the success in their everyday classes that all of our students get because of the Avid program is something that we're super excited to be able to have as part of our DNA at Lakeview.
Hello, I'm Emily Day. I teach 6th grade language arts at Lakeview Middle School, and I'm part of the Avid site team at Lakeview. And one of the things I want to highlight about Lakeview and Avid with our program is that we are a national demonstration school, and we have teachers all around the nation get to come in through a showcase that we put on, and they get to see live in action teachers and students working Avid every single day. And it's amazing to see the growth that students are excited about and teachers are excited about. It's a whole community experience, and it's a wonder to get to be a part of it.
Hi, I'm Angie Doss. I'm the principal of English Landing Elementary. And being in elementary school, for us, there isn't a demonstration process yet at the elementary level. So this is a huge honor for us because we are one of the first elementary schools in the state. We were the first in the state of Missouri and Kansas, and now there is another showcase school. We're considered a showcase school in Kansas, Sunflower Elementary, which we visited recently because we wanted to see what's going on there and learn some things. But this is a testament to the work of these individuals. This work has been going on before I came to English Landing, and we've partnered with Lakeview. We've done joint showcases, and this year we had some single showcases that we did, and we're just really excited about the work. And it's a dedication and passion of the individuals in our building and just collaboration across the board for our families and our students. So we're really honored.
Hi, Jennifer Steele. I'm a special education teacher at English Landing. What I love most about Avid, especially at the elementary level, is it's for all kids. I love that our kids learn organization skills and how to keep a planner and to set weekly goals and individualized goals and track their data. So they're learning those life skills beginning in kindergarten that my own kids who graduated from Park Hill years ago didn't get. So I'm just so thankful of the work of the administrators to bring Avid to the elementary level.
I'm Heather Fritz. I'm the instructional coach at English Landing and also at Southeast. And one of the things I love that we've done this year with Avid is we have wicker bulletin boards outside of every classroom, outside of every special area, every specialist. And so every time you walk in the building, you can see all the evidence of Avid in every space in our hallways. And I think it's really a testament to all the work that the teachers and the students are doing together.
I'm Kevin Collier. I'm the assistant principal, and this all happened way before I showed up. I'm my second year, and I think the thing that is most impressive with I see Avid at our building is, touching on a little bit what you said, is it is for all kids. They do AVID in their specialist classes. They do AVID in PE, in art, in the special education classrooms. Everywhere they go, they do AVID. It's just what we do, and it's just impressive.
I'm Elizabeth Beck. I'm a third grade teacher at English Landing. And I think what's really exciting about this moment is that you're seeing the through line of AVID for our students. So which is what it's all about. So we started AVID Elementary to help them be prepared for middle school. And Lakeview is showing that they're continuing that path. So then they'll continue on and be successful high schoolers as well. So it's working.
All right, Elizabeth, you're going to shake the board's hand as well. Miss Beck, Tracy, take a picture of you guys out in the hallway. All right, and then Josh, follow them out for a photo in the hall, please. All right, and last but not least, we have all of our second semester Park Hill Star winners here. If you're a star winner, come on up. Don't be shy. Okay, and we do have a mother-daughter duo here tonight. All right, Danny right here, Matt right here, Kirk right here. Yeah, as long as the live stream can see you. All right, I have your certificates over here. We'll give this to you in the hallway, but we're here tonight to recognize you as Park Hill Star second semester winners. As we know, in Park Hill, we recognize once a month a support employee, a secondary teacher, and an elementary teacher as Park Hill Stars, nominated by either students, community members, or other staff or administrators. And these are some of the best of the best. We're glad to have them here tonight. They're going to tell you what their name is and where they work and what they do. Kirk, you're first.
I'm Kirk Henry. I'm an American history teacher at Park Hill South High School and an assistant football coach, and I've been there for 20 years. And I'm really old, but I enjoy it a lot, and it's been a blast being there.
I'm Matt Allen. I work at Plaza Middle School. I'm an administrative assistant. My job, there's not really an easy way to summarize my job. So what we'll do is we'll say, I support our staff so they can support our students. And seeing how all of that falls together is a joy every day. And I don't have 20 years, but let me tell you, working with middle schoolers definitely makes you feel old real fast.
I'm Danny Henson. I teach at Park Hill South. I am a math teacher. I teach from Algebra 1A up to AP Calculus BC. I also am the head coach of the robotics team.
I'm Chris Cohen. I'm proud to serve the instructional coach at Chin Elementary and at Renner Elementary. I am a star because of three groups of people. It's the administration and the staff and the students at Chin. It's the administration and the staff and the students at Renner. And I'm also a star because of the coaching team that I get to work with within academic services. Those are three groups of people that nudge me and push me and challenge me and are continually willing to work with me as a thought partner as we provide the best education that we can for our students and provide the best community that we can for our families and for our teachers and everybody involved at Chin and Renner.
That's hard to follow, Chris. I am Becca Hurt, and I teach kindergarten at Hawthorne. So I have our little ones and start us off. And I'm Addie's mom, so it was kind of fun because I was reading the agenda and I was like, oh, Addie's on there. Oh, so am I. But I have over 20 years. I will not say how long I've been in the district. So lots of experience and lots of time here.
Park Hill Stars, everybody.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Coach? That's all right, that's fine. All right. That was a lot of celebrations here. That was awesome. All right, we'll now move on to item 4, public comment. During this part of the agenda, we will receive public comments from patrons who pre-registered by the noon deadline today, and we have one patron that's pre-registered. When called upon by the board president, patrons are to approach the presenter station, speak into the microphone, and state your name before making comments. Each speaker will have a 3-minute time limit. The board secretary will monitor the time. Please direct your comments to the entire board. Generally, board members will not provide any response during public comment. However, if needed, board members and/or district staff may provide a response at a later time. Discussion about individual staff members or students is not allowed. So we have one comment here from Brandon Kleinmeyer. You may approach the presenter station now. Thank you for coming tonight, and you can begin whenever you're ready.
All right. Sorry, I'm probably going to be a little bit of a buzzkill after all that recognition, but I'm here because of lack of communication from the school. My daughter goes to Line Creek. Last Tuesday, which was April 29th at Line Creek, a 5th grader found a note stating that the author of the note wanted to blow up the school. I was informed of this by my daughter when she got home from school that evening. There was no communication from the school about this incident. I had hoped that it was just a rumor. The next morning, I called the school to ask about it. I was transferred to the principal where I left a voicemail. About 6 hours later, I was finally contacted. I was told the incident did in fact happen. They knew who wrote the note, and it was not a credible threat. At that time, I expressed my frustration about having not received any sort of communication about this directly from the school and having to rely on rumor. I was told that they did not realize parents had heard about the incident and was given a "thank you for your feedback" type platitude. I am happy they figured out who did it. I am happy the threat was not credible. I even understand not wanting to cause any unnecessary panic. However, a simple email or automated call, both of which happen daily, or can happen daily, to the Line Creek parents stating that the note was found, they know who did it, it was not a credible threat, and the situation has been resolved, should have gone out to parents. Kids talk and rumors spread. I should not be learning about these types of incidents from my 5th grader. Most of us have played the telephone game in our lives and know how details change as rumors spread. Direct communication about these types of incidents from the school is the best way to prevent bad information from spreading. This lack of communication, coupled with the statement I was given on the phone, makes me wonder if other threats of this magnitude have happened and we have not been made aware of it. In today's day and age, all threats should be taken seriously and considered credible until proven otherwise. And it is our right as parents to know when our children's safety has been threatened. This lack of communication on such a serious matter has made it such that I do not currently trust the Park Hill School District with the safety of my children. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments this evening. We'll now move on to item 5, the approval of the consent agenda. Before I call for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, are there any items that need highlighted? Dr. Kimbrell?
I have a couple that I'll highlight real quickly. The first is 5.14 is an easement at Hawthorne. This is for sidewalks and wastewater. But the reason why I'm highlighting it is a request for waiving the first read so that we can allow the developer to go ahead and get that work done. So we are asking the board's consideration on that tonight. I also want to highlight 5.15, which is the follow-up from our work session in which we were talking about the scoreboards, video boards that are being purchased or being considered for purchase here with this particular item for our new gymnasiums at Park Hill High School and Park Hill South. All of the information in the item there talks about the invoice, what we have in place, what we will be returning for credit, and so on. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions there. The final thing I'd like to highlight is the 5.22. This is both for the board and the public, that this is asking the board for approval of our initial timeline relative to the bond proposal set of projects for what just passed, known as Proposition O. As presented at our work session last week, this is a $128 million set of projects. The highlights include first steps of hiring an architect and construction manager and design of Park Hill High School phased replacement and Park Hill South Stadium and athletic improvements. We would start that design in the fall. So those are the items I'd like to highlight on the consent agenda. I'd be happy to answer any other questions about any of these items.
Dr. Kimbrough, I know when we looked at these last week when they were given to us, on 5.9 with the agreement between Park Hill School District and Platte County for our SROs, did we put anything in there about them taking our training? Or did we bring that back up to them about them taking any of our training?
What we researched was that we have brought that back up with them, and also that we've vetted their training. So they do what's called the Continuing Law Enforcement Education, which is CLEE, and those particular training modules are given to our resource officers every year. I believe, if I researched that correctly, this is off the top of my head, not on my notes, that they have to do 24 hours of training. We've analyzed this training and we've compared it to our internal training. We know that they received that annual training on topics like racial profiling, de-escalation, and implicit bias. And we have vetted that and worked with the Sheriff's Department to make sure that those things are matching. We work with our law enforcement partners on our understanding of drivers and narratives as well. So that's where we're at right now with that particular topic. But I'd be happy to get any more information about their specific training on the continuing law enforcement education. We also provided that last year, about this time as well, looking at that same MOU.
And is that the same also for on 5.8 for Riverside? Is theirs,
Yes, ma'am.
is theirs the same as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, board? All right, then I'll need a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 5.2 through 5.22 as presented.
Seconded.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. Bowen and a second by Mr. Todd to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any other discussion, board? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Any abstained? All right, motion carries 7-0. All right, we'll now move on to action items. 6.1 is the approval of substitutes, May 8th, 2025. Dr. Kimbrough.
I have no other additional information on this one, but be happy to answer any questions.
Board, any questions? Okay, then I'll need a motion and a second to approve 6.1, approval of substitutes as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Mrs. Barber and a second by Ms. Barnes to approve substitutes as presented. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Or I said aye too. Aye, I'm sorry. Any opposed say nay. Any abstained?
I abstain.
Yes, Ms. Bowen is abstaining because your daughter's on the list. So motion carries 6-0. All right, item 6.2 is approval of amendment to 2024-2025 board meeting schedule. Dr. Kimbrough.
Yeah, this is a request for the board to consider a May 22nd virtual meeting to approve teachers' negotiated agreement. We are currently in negotiations with PHNEA, and in the final stages of that process, we would be looking to get a tentative agreement to their membership so they can ratify that, and we need to add this to our calendar to be able to hold that meeting.
And this would be a digital meeting?
Yes, it'd be virtual, and
public
it would
can
also
watch
be live streamed and recorded so that it would be able to be in the same platform as like what we do now.
Okay, yep, great. Board, any questions for Dr. Kimbrell? Okay, then I'll need a motion and a second to approve item 6.2, approval of amendment to 2024 to 2025 board meeting schedule as presented.
I moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Mrs. Woodley and a second by Ms. Barnes to approve the amendment to the 2024-2025 board meeting schedule as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Any abstained? All right, motion carries 7-0. All right, we'll now move into our information presentations for the evening. 7.1 is our 2024-2025 and 2025 to 2026 budget information with a focus on expenditures and fund balance. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Kimbrell. Dr. Kelly.
Yeah. A reminder to the board that one of the roles that you have as a board is to provide fiscal oversight, which includes approving an annual budget by June 30th each year. Last board meeting, we discussed revenue projections, and in the next few board meetings, we'll be providing you continued budget updates in preparation for that recommended budget for approval on June 26th at the regularly scheduled meeting. Tonight, Dr. Kelly will start with the fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26 budget with expenditure and fund balance focus. Dr. Kelly?
Thank you. As you know, this is part 2 of our budget presentations. We addressed fund balance and revenue last time. Just as a reminder, the approach that we take for forming the budget is outlined in our strategic plan, specifically the systems objective, where one of our objectives is to maximize the human and financial resources and address aging facilities in order to remove barriers. And so this is seen throughout this process, and as we make choices, we often look to our other goals so that we are forming an intentional budget and then also one that we can sustain. And so I'll show you where we believe we're going to end this fiscal year, which of course ends on June 30th, and then I give you a introduction to where we stand for next year on expenditures. So this is where we're at in the process. We are here where we're looking at estimates. We're currently obviously in May, and so this is a part of our annual process. It's very cyclical in nature, in which each year at this time we'll be looking at expenditures as we head towards the end of the month, June, where we'll recommend a budget to you. You know that we form internal goals, financial goals, or targets to help demonstrate that we're bringing to you a financially sustainable budget. And we've talked over the course of the last couple of months about changing our target. We've had a target here in the capital fund for a number of years around maintaining a certain percentage of a fund balance or a certain percentage of our capital expenditures. And so we have made a change to that and are moving forward with that change to where it would be a flat value somewhere between 3.5 and 6.5 million annually. And so that is the target that I am aiming for, not just in next year's budget, but then also to demonstrate that our actions are sustainable in 3 future years as well. We're now on expenditures. This is again all outlined in our Missouri Accounting Manual, and so you'll see the codes and some very familiar categories when we talk about expenditures. We group those expenditures in salaries, benefits, purchase services, material supplies, capital outlay, and then debt. The one thing about an expenditure that you may not know that is that the policy that you have is that something doesn't actually become an expenditure until that item has been ordered and received, or that service has actually been received. And so that brings us into a little bit of flux or at the end of the year, because in some cases something may have been ordered with the intention of paying for it in May or June, but through no fault of our own, perhaps a supplier is unable to fulfill that, or it gets delayed. And so oftentimes in the months of May and June, what we anticipated and that I've projected out to be an expenditure in fiscal year 25 becomes a budgeted item for next year. And so that means that these are very much a work in progress. And even over the course of the last 5 days, since I published this, I'm thinking that this will change a little bit over the next month before we bring to you the final budget. So this is where we stand and have stood with our operating fund balance. This is the one that we like to keep around 20%. And so this is demonstrating that at the end of this fiscal year, the purple bar here is showing that we will, at the end of this fiscal year, be within that range. This will be the last year. You're looking at the capital fund balance target. So this is the one that we're moving forward with the change. And so in future years, we'll pull this orange line out of the metric, and then we'll just look at a flat amount. And so we're looking at changing this to a fund balance of 3.5 to 6.5%, or of 3.5 to $6.5 million annually. And so those dollars will be really the kind of emergency fund that will maintain for emergencies or unanticipated capital expenditures. This will obviously grow this year, and that's an intentional part of the budget that you approved for this year, is to grow that such that we can go into our buildings that we're doing bond projects and then supplement those with other work so that while we're there, we're getting the biggest bang for our buck by combining capital fund balance with our bond funds that the voters approved, not as a proposition G and O, but as a part of the last bond issue in April 2022. So as we look at where we're going to stand with our expenditures by the end of the year, these are projected values. These are, this is a very similar pie chart in terms of how our expenditures lay out. This is looking at total expenditures. And so, as you know, a large part of our organization is in salaries and benefits. And so that is that blue and red part of the chart. Purchase services are in the green. The purple is supplies and materials. This is the one that's the most variable, so that's the capital projects list. And so much of that teal part this year has been bond proceeds that we received in a prior year. So as you look at Angeline Washington, Park Hill High School renovations, Park Hill South renovations, the Aquatic Center, those are projects that led to a sizable expenditure this year. And then also all of the Bundle 2 or the school improvements that we did last summer are also in that. So this is really the largest year of expenditures in our history. This is going to drop significantly next year, so we're not going to spend nearly as much. We simply don't have those kinds of projects. And the projects that we do have, the large ones, are going to be completed at the early part of the year. So one big change will be in this piece of the pie.
Dr. Kelly, in a typical year, that salaries and benefits, that would be closer to like 60, 65, 70% of the...
Right. Yeah. And oftentimes that is only looking at operating, which is actually highlighted on the next slide. Okay, so sometimes we pull debt and capital out or bond out for the purposes of talking about our operating, because that the bond and the debt can fluctuate and kind of throw that chart off. But when you're looking at our operating expenditures, you're right, we're looking at about 3/4 of our budget and compensation. So this is just operating, and so you can see a very consistent year. This is, the blue bars represent what we had budgeted or what we anticipated, and then the red bar is where I'm projecting we'll end up by the end of June. And so you see that in each case, we're very close. The one thing on this red bar is that what that's showing is that our non-bond funds, we just are not spending as much of those this year. Those are going to get spent next year. So the fact that we're lower than anticipated or than budgeted this year will help build that balance so that we can use those dollars to complement our bond projects next year. So it's part of that spending that fund balance down in capital. I provided a detailed report for you, and I won't go over it, but it's accompanying this board item, and it'll show you more detail in terms of our actual performance to budget, and that's provided in the board item. And happy to answer any questions about that. If we fast forward then to next year, what we're looking at next year, this last bar is kind of the first glimpse that you see of where our expenditures are anticipated to be next year. The first thing that you notice is that it's significantly less than it is this current year. And that again has to do with all of the bond projects. In fact, that blue bar is almost single-handedly the cause of the drop, in which we've got such a sizable amount this year and not as much next year. And so that is really where we're seeing the significant drop. In fact, the other areas like salaries, benefits, purchase services, and supplies are also increasing, but the bond part of this blue bar is decreasing at such a rate that overall we're going to be spending much, much less money next year. Again, there's actually another report in the board item that will detail this, where the changes year over year. You'll be able to see a more granular look at where we see increases and decreases in our budget for next year. So big picture, again, our fiscal year starts on July 1. All of these fund balances are within our target or our expectation or our budget. We're looking at, of course, changing that capital fund balance target to $3.5 to $6.5 million. And then just very, very big picture, we're looking at a $55 million decrease in expenditures for next year, but a $38.2 million increase in operating expenditures. And so that is largely due to all of that capital money that's in our operating fund being spent next year. We didn't spend as much of that this year. And then, of course, the staffing with opening a new school, compensation increases, and then just natural increases to services and supplies would account for that increase in operating expenditures. This lays out kind of more detail. This is many of these items are seen in the budget assumptions document that you reviewed in February. Again, these are repeated, so there's not a lot of new information here, but these are the large drivers or large levers that we're using to make changes to next year's budget and ultimately bring you one, propose you one by the end of June. In terms of large swings in the budget, I've listed the top 15 large differences year over year. And so the red values on this chart are areas in which we're increasing the expenditures. And the blue is where we're dropping expenditures. And so we'll be spending $68 million less next year on buildings and building improvements. And then you can see the rest of the list here, where the largest differences year over year are. Some of these are obvious, things like regular salaries is a little bit of a mislabel, but this is what DESE requires. Regular salaries, which is 6111, is actually all teachers' salaries. So that is with the increase in teachers and then the compensation increases with Proposition G. We will see a sizable area. That's, of course, our largest expenditure overall, and so that's why that's such a large swing. We have a large laptop replacement cycle scheduled for next year, and so that's reflected in the hardware, and then you can, of course, see the rest of those. And if you have questions, I'd be glad to answer any on those. In fact, that is the end of my presentation, and I'll be glad to answer.
I see that says less for other professional services. Is that because the Avid, everybody's trained in, or is that more with our staff? We don't need as much, or where does that come from?
Yeah, I actually pulled that up this afternoon just as I anticipated that question, and it's a little bit abstract, and I can get you more detail on it. It's not one thing. There's a lot of expenditures that are grouped into that, and it's just not coming to me exactly what the detail was, but I can get you that information about the large swings. It wasn't like Avid and training so much as services in other areas, and I can get you more detail on that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I am curious about the technology-related hardware line. When in the year next year are we expecting to make those purchases?
They would be almost always for the spring, and to try to target receiving them, obviously getting the best price and the best product, and so they wouldn't be ready for an actual replacement cycle occurring until the next year, but then all of the setup would occur over the next summer, so the summer of 26, and so they would be rolled out in the fall of 26.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I would follow Mr. Todd, his question raised a question to me, and that is, with the tariffs going up, we may, if laptops cost double, we may want to push a year or something like that. So
yeah, and that's obviously we'll have time to kind of play that out, but that's exactly what we'll have to do is make a consideration. In fact, Derek and the technology team has already split that very large maintenance cycle into 2 years. And so unlike the following year, the fiscal year 27, we would actually order another half of these to be paid in the summer. And so you'd have half of the technology being paid for in June, and then half in July or August, all to be rolled out in August, or the first school year of 2026. Those expenditures, though, will be approved by the board next year. So we'll have obviously more information on what we can and can't do, or if we need to defer. Obviously, we do have a budget that we'll have to keep in mind as we make those decisions.
Well, I'm more concerned about the maintenance of the current, making sure they can go another year.
Yeah.
That would be my biggest concern.
Yeah.
Is there any thought to pre-purchasing them before tariffs go into effect?
We could look into that. We haven't had that conversation, so we don't know enough about really what the tariffs will be, but we could look into that. I can ask Derek to work on that.
And remind me, what's that replacement schedule? Is it 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah, and so that does vary. That's where we do look at the warranty that we purchase, as well as just what the maintenance costs are. And so that's really looked at every year, and just looking at work orders and costs in terms of repairs. And so 3 to 4 years is the average.
Okay.
Yeah. And we could save some money for a year by deferring and going to 4 years, just knowing that there'll be more replacement costs associated with it, but it may save us money on tariffs or other supply chain issues.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay. Good. All right. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be ready for the next installment in June. All right, next is item 7.2, our special education program update. We'll have Dr. Kimbrell and then Dr. Bridewell and Ms. Kelly approach the speaker station.
And Ms. King.
And Ms. King.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Before I turn it over to our presenters, just to kind of give the board background and the public background, obviously over the last several months, we've been working diligently, and it's been tough to try to make things balance and make things work so that we can guarantee that the unique needs of our students are being met at the high quality level with our staff and our facilities. That threading of that needle is very, very important to us. Obviously, space issues, staffing issues. In fact, we have 13 SPED openings still today, and so continuing to have that challenge. But with these challenges, we believe these three are going to present a plan that has been enabling us to meet the unique needs of these students in our specialized programs and specialized classrooms with high quality services and dignity. Tonight, you're going to hear from Heather King and Adrian Kelly and Dr. Jasmine Bridewell with an update to specifically hit feedback we received over the last couple months. Specifically, more clarity and definitions around all special education programming, increased future use of inputs from parents such as focus groups and so on, how to ensure we honor the IEP team process and decisions that have been made by IEP teams, making sure that the integrity to that process is being upheld, location questions and clarity around that, and to ensure high quality staffing. So I'd like to remind the board that we presented a plan in February that was with budget assumptions, and you'll see a slide in this particular presentation that has one of those coming back relative to the budget assumptions, and that includes the addition of 7 special education teachers, 6 school psychologists, 2 process coordinators, TAs, and a coordinator of special education to have an investment in this program and meet the needs, to be able to meet the needs of all of our students in the special education programs, all of our special education programs, but specifically tonight talking about our specialized classrooms. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Bridewell, and thank you for your preparation tonight.
I will add that throughout the presentation, we will also make note of the feedback we've received and how the information that we're sharing addresses that feedback as well. And I'll hand it over to both of you ladies.
All right. Well, good evening, board, administrators, staff, and community members. I would like to thank you for allowing us to present this evening. I would like to highlight the slide that you see in front of you, which is our mission, building successful futures, each student every day, which all of you see, which we have it behind our board president there. And so I just want to highlight that because when you think about that, we are making sure that all students are successful and we're preparing them for the future, and we're making sure that all of our students are able to go on into society and be able to be successful. When I talk about special education, I just want to talk about that alignment with special education and supporting our special education students because we want them all to be successful as well. And so just this year in my learning, in my listening, I am passionate about creating rigorous opportunities for our special education students. And what I've noticed that our staff, and our parents also want to create those rigorous opportunities for our special needs students. So how do we do that? How can we improve to create those opportunities? We're going to ensure that students are able to make progress on their IEP goals. We're going to ensure that our students that there's alignment between their IEP goals and the standards, the learning standards. We are going to ensure that students have access to grade level content and curriculum in the general education environment. And we're going to do that by providing the appropriate instruction, have quality special education services, and make sure that they all have the supports that they need through their IEP. So what I'm saying is we want to make sure that we're not having low expectations for our special education students, but we want to set those expectations for them, and we want to make sure that they are successful and that they're able to move on beyond high school. We want to ensure that they have proper transition plans that are in place as they move on from high school, but not only high school, but from early childhood to elementary to middle school and throughout high school. We want to make sure that they are able to be productive citizens of the community. We want to make sure that they're able to be employable, that they are able to go to a four-year college if they wish, go to a two-year college if they wish, go to a trade school if they wish. We want to make sure that they are able to live independently and be able to do those things, buy a house, buy a car, and be able to live on their own and we want to make sure that they've got those skills so that they can function in society. And so that's an overall goal of what the special education department wants for our students. We want them to be successful, and whatever that looks like for them. So I just wanted to start with that.
All right. So throughout tonight, we will talk about our connection in the work that we started even back in April of last year, was looking at how do we improve academics, culture, and systems within our special education programming, and what do we need to do in each of those areas to make those improvements. And so we just want to point out that that was a focus for us, and we'll revisit that through the presentation.
While not part of the special education program in and of itself, we wanted to include information tonight about 504 plans. And a 504 plan is designed to provide support for students with disabilities to ensure equal access to general education curriculum. And it's part of Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Unlike an individualized education plan, which utilizes specialized instruction and student-centered goals, a 504 plan outlines specific accommodations that help that student continue to access the general education curriculum. The plan's developed collaboratively by a team that includes the parents, the 504 coordinator, counselors, administrators, and the student themselves when they are ready to do that. Accommodations are individualized based on the disability and that disability's impact on learning. Examples of 504 accommodations may include things like extended time for a standardized test, being able to stop the clock during a standardized test for medical needs, such as I need to check my blood sugar because I'm a diabetic. It may be copies of teacher notes or outlines to help the student keep up and keep pace during a lecture in an American history class.
Can I ask a question on 504 plans? Just curious. So the 504 coordinators, are they like teachers that take special like training? Is there like certification that they have to take in order to like implement that? Because I'm just looking at that. There's physical, there's mental, there's a lot of things in that. So what exactly do the 504 coordinators have to do in order to be in that position?
So our 504 coordinators in Park Hill vary. At the elementary school level, our assistant principals serve as 504 coordinators. At the middle school level, it is teachers that take that on as an extra duty. And then the 3 high schools each have a dedicated 504 coordinator. Each of those individuals get trained by me, and I go to training at our regional professional development center and receive training annually to then be able to support those staff members in that role.
So there's no extra certification?
Correct.
And one of the reasons we wanted to talk about 504s this evening is through the feedback we've received, there's some confusion about because my child has a 504, does that mean I might have to change locations? And so we wanted to highlight what is a 504 and how that's different than a specialized program that might have students that have intensive needs that need additional support, and how those are different.
Before we dive into the details.
Can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
So the special we have multi-tier education for our different students. So 504 students are generally in tier 1, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then the students with IEPs, are they considered a different tier, or how does that?
So when we talk about interventions, a student might receive tier 2 and tier 3 interventions and be in special education, but a student that receives, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, resource, for example, they would, they can have co-teaching model, or they can have a pull-out model where they would have specialized instruction for those goals that they have in their IEP.
Okay.
For students that receive those specialized instruction, they've been through that tiered process and haven't been successful most of the time, which is why then we've gone through the eligibility process to see if they do qualify to be a student in the special education program.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, before we dive into the details of each special education program, it's important to understand how we've organized them. Our programs are based on areas of student need and specific goal areas from students' individualized education plans. To help clearly define and describe each of these programs, we outlined 6 main areas. These are communication, adaptive, cognition, social, emotional, sensory, and academics. Each category guides the structure and services of the programs, and we'll review each program in detail.
And then I'll make a side note. Some of the feedback that we received in our focus group was that they would like some clarity on these descriptions. So we will go back to the drawing board and add some more clarity for that. And then eventually we would like to have those posted on our website so that parents can easily access that at any time.
So the first program we're going to talk about is our resource program. And Special Education Resource Program is a placement designed to provide targeted support to students who require specialized instruction. It's one of the least restrictive environments on the continuum of special education services. Students in a resource setting most often are eligible for special education services under the category of a student with a learning disability or an other health impairment. The primary purpose of this setting is to provide instruction in specific targeted skill areas such as basic reading, written expression, math calculation, or maybe behaviors related to learning. Maybe I'm impulsive and I have a really hard time sitting and focusing, so that's one of the things that we may work on is strategies to help that student be able to focus for longer periods of time. The special educator works with the regular education teacher to support academic progress in students' areas of deficit, while the student continues to access the regular education curriculum. At elementary school, we call this a pull-out program, as the student is most of the time primarily in their regular education setting and then leaves that setting to go visit the special education classroom and special educator for certain periods of time that have been determined by that IEP team. Then at the secondary level, students' schedules are set up to include that support for them. For example, if I were a 10th grade student and I had a reading disability, and so being in that general education, fast-paced English language arts class was difficult for me because I couldn't keep pace, and my IEP team determined that I needed a resource setting, that student's schedule would be set up so that that student is with a special education teacher as their teacher for that English language arts course. In some instances, students have co-teaching services where a regular educator and a special educator work together within the same classroom. Examples of IEP goals for students receiving a resource or co-teaching service might be something like, given 20 math problems involving addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division, the student would solve those problems with 85% accuracy. It could be something like, given a visual checklist, the student will begin an assigned task within 3 minutes. Or the student will compose a 5-sentence paragraph using a graphic organizer with a clear topic sentence, 3 supporting details, and a concluding sentence. Most of the time, those students' goals are very academic based on the general education standards. Sometimes they are behavior based, as the example of being able to use a visual checklist to get on task within 3 minutes of being given that direction. As we begin to look at our specialized programs, it's important to understand.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Sorry. On this type of student, are they going to be in their home? They'll be in their home school, right?
Yes.
100%?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
As we begin to look at our specialized program, it is important to understand the purpose and scope of these services. Specialized programming is designed for students with more complex and intensive needs. These programs provide highly customized instruction and support, all focused on students' individual strengths, challenges, and goals. Related support services may include speech-language therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and/or assistive technology, depending on what the student needs to access learning and build essential life skills. Students' IEP goal areas can include academic skills like writing their name or formulating a sentence, adaptive skills such as personal hygiene or cooking, communication goals like using a communication device to express their wants and needs, or behavioral goals like learning coping strategies in social interactions. One of our specialized programs is an intensive classroom, or what we currently refer to as Specialized 2. And this is an intensive classroom in a highly structured educational setting designed for students with significant and complex needs. These students require a low student-to-staff ratio, highly individualized instruction, and consistent access to specialized supports to make progress towards their IEP goals. Intensive classrooms will provide a safe, structured, and predictable environment for students with severe disabilities or developmental delays. Teachers deliver highly individualized, functional instruction tailored to students' developmental needs and across multiple domains, which may include academic, adaptive, communication, sensory, and behavior. They will utilize alternative curriculum aligned with alternative state standards, focusing on life skills, communication, and functional academics. This setting will foster increased independence, communication, and social engagement through consistent, repetitive, and highly supportive instruction. Additionally, addressing maladaptive behaviors that may interfere with learning through behavior intervention plans when needed, proactive sensory or communication strategies as part of this program. Example IEP goals for students in this setting are: students could use a break card instead of engaging in self-injurious behavior. Student will complete a sensory regulation routine with adult assistance and return to task within 10 minutes. A sensory regulation routine may look like a student using a weighted lap pad or a student using a compression vest. Another example might be a student will use a voice output device or picture exchange system to request preferred activities or preferred items or activities independently. Our next specialized program is cross-categorical, which we currently refer to as a Specialized 1 classroom. A cross-categorical classroom is a special education setting that serves students who have mild to moderate cognitive, behavioral, communication, or academic needs and require specialized instruction. Adult-to-student ratios are more flexible than in intensive classrooms, but higher than you would find in a resource classroom or a general education setting. This setting offers social, behavioral, and academic interventions within smaller, more structured environments while still promoting inclusion when appropriate. Teachers provide targeted instruction that span both functional and academic goals, tailored to each student's IEP. Some students work towards general education standards, while other students work toward the alternative state standards. Supports could include augmentative and alternative communication, visual reinforcement systems, task breakdowns, behavior intervention plans, and integration of sensory supports into daily routines. Examples of IEP goals for students in this setting include things like student will independently complete a 3-step hygiene routine with no more than 1 prompt. Student will solve single-digit addition problems with visual support, and student will read and answer WH questions from a short paragraph. Next is the social communication classroom, which is designed to support students who struggle with pragmatic language, social interaction, and emotional regulation rather than significant academic or adaptive delays. These students require a structured setting that teaches social communication skills while offering access to the general education environment when appropriate. Social communication classrooms will offer a structured, supportive home base that students can return to when the general education setting becomes overwhelming. Teachers in this setting will provide explicit instruction in pragmatic language, perspective taking, flexibility, and coping skills, as well as support academic success through adaptations while addressing underlying social, emotional, or sensory challenges. Students will work to gradually increase independence and integration into general education as their skills develop and their behaviors stabilize. Goals for students in a social communication classroom might look something like: student will identify and label their emotional state using a visual tool such as zones of regulation. The student will initiate and maintain a topic of conversation with a peer for at least 3 turns with visual supports. Student will use a visual checklist to complete a 4-step independent task with no more than 1 prompt. And last is a behavior support classroom. A behavior support classroom is designed to meet the needs of students whose primary barrier to success in the general education setting is significant behavioral or emotional regulation challenges. These students have individualized behavior intervention plans to guide consistent, proactive intervention and reactive strategies across all settings. The special education teacher will collaborate with a team that may include the school psychologist, the social worker, the counselor, regular education teachers, and teacher assistants to provide consistent interventions. Access to general education settings is planned, supported, and then that support is fated as students demonstrate readiness to be independent. This setting will provide a structured learning environment that teaches self-regulation, coping strategies, and social emotional skills. The behavior support classroom provides a higher adult-to-student ratio than a resource setting to facilitate consistent implementation of behavior plans. Teachers will prepare students for increased time in general education by reducing behavior-related disruptions and building functional replacement skills. Academic instruction is aligned to grade-level standards with necessary accommodations to be provided, as well as daily explicit instruction in social emotional regulation, conflict resolution, and executive functioning skills. Students will have access to a calm, safe space equipped with a sensory area for de-escalation. Accommodations such as visual supports for schedules and coping cards, token economies, and self-monitoring tools will be utilized. Examples of goals for students in a behavior support classroom might look like student will identify emotional states and select an appropriate coping strategy from a visual menu. Student will accept a redirection or correction without verbal or physical aggression. Given a triggering event, student will use a taught de-escalation strategy such as breathing or a request break. We've been very fortunate in Park Hill to have a behavior support classroom at Union Chapel Elementary for the last several years. And next year we will add a behavior support classroom at Congress Middle School in order to allow a continuation of that support from elementary to middle school for those students as they get older and leave elementary school.
All right, so we wanted to talk to you about the feedback process that we used this year. Go ahead. Thank you. One of the things that we did this year was start our Special Education Community Council. And we talked about this in our board presentation earlier in the year. And that is where we went through our drivers and narratives and talked about what does that mean to our special education community. And so you can see each of those dates. In April, we did not finish. We had a listening session instead about program locations. So we do plan to finish that out and use that information as a pillar for all of our departments to make sure we're looking at that and considering the feedback that we got during those sessions in all that we do. A curriculum team, maybe we're making decisions about purchasing PE supplies. We want to have that. One thing that we heard from our focus groups is that while we were getting feedback on the entire special education program, what our parents really wanted was to be able to give feedback on locations. And so we just wanted to acknowledge that we heard it, and we want to use that feedback moving forward.
All right, next I'm going to talk about the timeline of special services feedback and kind of how we got to where we're at now. So back in the fall, I heard from teachers that they were struggling with managing classrooms, being able to adapt curriculum and meet all of the students' needs within the classroom. And so I sent out a survey to all of the specialized teachers to get their feedback on what their experiences were. And then we started a teacher focus group. So being able to listen to teachers, and with me being new to the district, I wanted to hear their experiences and some of the things that they were going through. With that, we continue to meet. We continue to look at our specialized programs and kind of research, try to find other district models and see what other districts were doing and best practices that they were doing. We were also going through redistricting as well, so really analyzing those programs and looking at our students across the district. What are the needs of our student population? We knew we saw an increase in our special education population, and so really honing in on those factors. And then we continue to meet, and we're able to identify program descriptors on what those programs could be titled, and then what it looks like for each student, for a student that may go into that classroom based on needs. We were also able to get feedback from our administrators as well, and we were able to give them a draft proposal and kind of look through what the plan was going to look like. And then throughout that process, we were also sharing updates with our special education teachers as a whole and our administrators, just keeping them informed, keeping them updated throughout that process. And so we shared draft proposals with teachers, staff, and administrators, and were able to get feedback on that. And then we made changes based on their feedback from teachers, staff, and administrators. Then we were able to send out the communication to our parents. We wanted to make sure that we sent out communication to the individual families that were impacted and provide that personal experience and being able to really help with that transition, make the transition smoother. We also sent out communication to the whole special education population as a whole, letting them know that we are making some changes to our programs, and there will be we're adding some programs based on the needs of students. So then, through all of that feedback from our teachers and administrators, I want to talk about the challenges that we're facing and what that feedback came from them and identifying those challenges. So some of those challenges that we saw throughout that process and what we heard from our staff and administrators was that scheduling was a challenge, and it was hard to find adequate times for breaks and planning, and our teachers and TAs were struggling to get those breaks and plan times, and so which could impact their effectiveness and their well-being. We also saw the need for collaboration. We want to make sure that our special education teachers and our general education teachers are able to collaborate, because we know the more that we collaborate and the more that we're able to talk about our student information as far as student data, we are able to help make progress. So that was a challenge. And then another challenge is the specialized focus. So our teachers right now are serving students that are within a wide range of needs and abilities and grade levels. So we may have some that are serving from K to 5 who may have different levels of support within the classroom. Some may have more behavior concerns. Some may have more medical concerns. Some may have more lower cognitive concerns. And then we may have some who are actually integrating into general education that may be higher cognitively, but still have some needs where they still need to have a specialized setting. And then also we talked the behavior challenges was also a factor. And so that can also be taxing on our educators and can impact the learning environment as a whole. And then staff morale was also a concern. Our teachers were feeling isolated and alone. And so we want to make sure that, that they're supported and make sure that we can address those concerns as well. And then we also have faced issues with classroom space. And so wanting to make sure that we have the availability of appropriate classroom space. And we don't want to have that be a barrier for some schools. And then recognizing those challenges, that is a crucial part of our growth. That is something that is just with going through that growth process, looking at our challenges and how can they be addressed? How can we address those challenges? So we want to continue to find collaborative solutions for that.
Once our challenges were identified, we wanted to focus on our goals. These goals were developed based on thoughtful feedback from caregivers, from administrators, and from staff, and each goal will serve as a foundation for the decisions that we make. One aim is to continually improve instruction and programming, ensuring what we offer to our students with special needs is meaningful and effective for all of them. We're committed to incorporating stakeholder voice because we know our voices are stronger when we listen and when we collaborate. We also want to improve the qualification process experience, making it clearer and more supportive and more efficient for families. Accessibility is another focus, making sure that families can engage with services and information without any barriers. And we're also working to foster an inclusive mindset throughout our schools. We want to create environments where all students feel valued and supported. And we also want everything with that throughout our special education department to be aligned throughout the district so that no matter where a student is served, they receive consistent, high-quality support across our system.
Can I interrupt with questions?
Mm-hmm.
Are we able to get a synthesized version of some of this feedback that's been collected over the past year, if we could? And if these are our goals for special services, are they kind of laid out like our CSIP, where they have underlying steps to achieve each of these goals and things that we're moving along on the plan to achieve these?
We don't have it set up like an action plan, but we could certainly do that.
Are these goals just, I guess, how are we expecting to achieve these goals? Just based on the plan that we've set up, or were we going to do action steps later, or how are these goals?
We're going to talk a little bit more about the goals and identify how we're going to address those goals.
Okay, great.
So that brings us to the next slide, the main components of the plan. How the proposed plan and how we program. We noticed that we created grade span focus services. So we noticed that at the high school level, we have grades 6 through 8, middle school, we have 6 through 8, and we have 9 through 12. And so at the elementary level, we want to be able to focus on grade level spans, so K through 2 and 3 through 5, so that we can focus on targeted instruction and allow our general education and special education teachers to collaborate and truly focus on grade level learning standards and content. This plan will allow our teachers to do that, and also it will allow us to focus on inclusionary practices and co-teaching models. We also are adding a social communication classroom for programming so that we can focus more on our current needs that are supporting for behavior, intensive support, and cross-categorical support. So social communication is a new program. We are also making sure that our staff is trained on inclusionary and co-teaching practices. We just recently, last week, had training for our some of our special education teachers, a team of teachers, and our instructional coaches and our process coordinators on standards-based IEPs. And so that is where we are trying to align our IEPs with the grade level standards and truly diving into the Missouri Learning Standards, priority standards, and also essential elements, which are part of our MAP-A, which is part of our alternate curriculum for our students who may not take the MAP assessment. So those may be students who have more complex needs, but they also have assessment that they take as well. And so really diving into that, our teachers really enjoyed that. It was very hands-on. And so In the fall, we will actually roll that out with the rest of our special education staff and do a training with them. And then throughout the year, we will do training updates on that. And so the teachers that went to that training, they are actually going to be resources for those buildings. So we're trying to build that leadership capacity. We also have added additional staff. So we're in the process of hiring school psychologists, as Dr. Kimbrell spoke before, 2 process coordinators, special education teachers, TAs, and then 1 coordinator of special education. We also are focused on creating a teams-based approach because what I heard from the feedback from our focus groups and our teachers, our administrators, and our parents is that they sometimes don't understand, our parents sometimes don't understand the process, so the evaluation process, or they don't know who they're supposed to talk to. And so we're really trying to streamline that process and make sure that we can focus on, our school psychologists can focus on the evaluation process. So how a student goes through eligibility and qualifies for special education, and then focusing on our the IEP process is what the process coordinator would be able to help support. So they would help support the IEP teams, and then our instructional coaches will be able to truly focus on instruction and be able to help teachers and be able to help grade level teams and professional learning community teams be able to tear down and figure out the gap between the grade level and where students are at instructionally.
I have a quick question on the staffing. Is so 7 new teachers. Is the 13 open positions, does that include the new 7?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So
But it is a very difficult sector of our workforce
Yeah, of
to
course.
find special education teachers.
okay, I would just, when I heard those numbers quoted, I wasn't sure if that was
That
before
does
or
include
after
that.
this. That does include, okay, gotcha.
And with the school psychologists, the 6, how would that be divided across our buildings?
We have a slide on that later.
Okay.
We did want to pause and take a moment to provide some context on how our special education programming has evolved over the last several years. Prior to 2019, our model relied heavily on satellite locations. For example, all autism-focused programs were placed in one school. Medically fragile students were served in another school, and we had just one middle school option for some specialized programs. This meant that most students in a specialized program were not in their resident home school. Their placements were IEP team decisions, and their school of attendance was based on where that specific program was offered. In fall of 2019, we made a significant shift by moving to a school-based program model. This meant that nearly every school in the district was equipped with at least one specialized 1 classroom, and many of our schools also had specialized 2 classrooms. This change reduced the number of students needing to leave their home school for services. However, currently we have 30 specialized students who are not in their resident home school. And this information is being provided not to minimize the experience of our students and families, but to help communicate that intensity of need. Looking ahead to the model for 2025 and beyond, we're introducing those focused grade span classrooms such as K through 2 or 3 through 5 when feasible. We'll also be offering more specialized programming such as the social communication class and adding the behavior support classroom at middle school. With these refinements, we anticipate that 42 students in specialized classroom will attend a school that is not their resident home school. We know that staying in a home school is important to families, and we're continuing to work toward balancing that goal with the need to provide high-quality intensive support. Our priority is to ensure each student receives the services they need to thrive while minimizing disruptions to their education whenever possible.
I have a quick question. So the 30 is like today and then 42. Okay, so 30 is not fall of 19. Okay, gotcha. And then 42 resident homeschool, is that their current homeschool or their homeschool after redistricting?
Their homeschool after redistricting.
Okay. Is there any, probably not, but is there any of that group that's would go to what their school currently is? Does that make sense? like they're
I can
redistricted to
tell you
another
if I
school.
have the
but
spreadsheet
it's
sitting
probably
in front of me.
not very many.
It's possible.
It's possible, but probably not.
Possible.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so how did we use the criteria to make decisions about this program? So these are the goals and broken down into how we're addressing those goals. So the first one is improve instruction and programming. Again, we want to make sure that our special education teachers and our gen ed teachers are able to collaborate so that they can plan for instruction and help improve instruction for our students. We want to make sure that we're providing innovative teaching and learning for our students. We also have a co-teaching model where that's where the special education teacher is in the classroom with the general education teacher, and they co-teach together and supporting all students within the classroom. But there's a number of special education students who are in that classroom receiving their services. And so throughout this plan, we want to make sure that we can provide access to the general education environment and curriculum, and we want to make sure that we can align the IEP goals with the grade level standards.
Quick question.
Yes.
For the students that are not in the general education classrooms but are still in the school, they still have access to the elective program, so they still have integration with general education students. For classes, it's only the core learning where they're perhaps in a different setting for it to be more focused and specialized. Is that correct?
So the co-teaching model is where the special education teacher is in the classroom, but then we may also have students who are accessing the general education environment in their elective classes, which could be PE or it could be a family consumer class or whatever that might be, where we may have a teacher assistant that is going in to support those teachers. We also, this is also a thing that we are trying to move towards, aligning the standards within the special education classroom, so that in that special education classroom, it's also mirroring what the general education is doing. So students are getting the access in the general education classroom, and if they make progress and they are ready to move to general education, it is a smoother transition. So those are some things that we are implementing now and trying to work towards. So we are also, the next goal, is stakeholder voice. So we want to make sure that we continue to get our voices from all of our stakeholders. So that means our families, our teachers, our staff, and even our students. We had listening, lunch and listens, and we were able to get feedback from our students as well this year. So we want to continue to provide those opportunities. We also want to ensure that, continue to make sure that our special education teachers are able to be a part of the curriculum review process, so that they can help provide input on, what do our special education students need as far as like scaffolding or differentiating? What does it look like to help them where they're at instructionally get to that grade level standard? And so we want to continue to provide those opportunities. Also, like I said before, continuing to build the leadership capacity for our special education teachers. We've been sending them to lots of different trainings, and they are loving it. And so we want to continue to do that and provide those resources for our buildings as well, so that we have our special education teachers are equipped at the buildings, that they can answer questions, they can support their special education team, and they can support general education as well. We are ensuring that we have mentoring for our teachers, and then also making sure our special education teachers and our parents are able to represent on building and district committees. And then the next goal is improving the qualification process. So we want to make sure we're clarifying the roles and responsibilities of the eligibility team members. So that is making sure that we know everyone who is on the team and what their role is and how they can attribute to that, to the IEP team. With our IEP team members, we are making sure that we're streamlining across our staff with the school psychologists, process coordinators, and instructional coaches, and make sure that everyone knows the roles and responsibilities of them, and so they know who they can go to for support. We will ensure that special education processes and procedures are clearly explained and transparent for everyone, because in the special education world, things can become confusing. There's a lot of terminology, and so we want to make sure that everybody understands. And that's what we were hearing from our focus groups, that there may be some misunderstanding, and we just want to make that clear. We want to make sure that our parents are understanding their rights in the special education process, and so they know how to advocate, they know what questions to ask, and so we want to make sure we're supporting them and helping them understand the process, because it can be a lot, going through that process, especially when you're starting with the initial evaluation, or the initial request, going through the review of existing data, and then going into the evaluation plan and all of that. That can be a lot. So we want to make sure that they understand that process. And then we also want to improve accessibility. So improving our physical accessibility in our school buildings and facilities. Not only this, but also making sure that our students have access to general education. We want to make sure we're utilizing high leverage practices to support this. We want to make sure we continue to provide assistive technology, and make sure that our students have access to that. A lot of our students need that communication, assistive technology for communication purposes. And then we will provide training to all educators regarding specific student needs. So making sure that everybody's informed, because all of our students have different needs, and everyone needs to be equipped for that and know how to support them.
Can I just ask a question? This is for the special education. Are the 504 coordinators getting all this information too? I only say that because, especially on the high school level, because those plans go with those kids to colleges, or if they go into a workforce, they have FMLA in those plans. And I know just being in healthcare, like we have to implement those same processes, the same that you do here in high school. And I guess my feedback on that is just like, are they getting the same process? Because I know a lot of 504 coordinators at other schools are administrators or former counselors or former special education teachers, because they understand that process and all those things that they have to implement. So I just want to make sure that we are setting up our 504 coordinators in high school level to help those students advocate for themselves when they get to other levels. You understand what I'm saying? And I want to make sure that, I know that you say that you teach them or whatever, but I mean, I don't know. I think there needs to be more training. I need to think that they need to go to their own certification. There's just a lot that goes into that, especially if you have to maintain your own health care. And that's part of you telling all kids to be able to take care of themselves every day, then that's part of taking care of themselves. And I think that we need to make sure that we are equipping the right adults to be there to assist those students and parents in those paths.
So you mean additional training opportunities for our 504 coordinators?
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. I don't think that that's something that we have had an opportunity to discuss, but that I think that's something that we need to make a note of. I know one thing that I did last summer, as this is my second year in my role, and one of the things that I noticed was there weren't a lot of resources for our 504 coordinators when they had a question about how do I do this process, or when a parent calls, what do I do?
Right.
So I created a Teams notebook for them and said, hey, if a parent calls you, here's what you do, here's what forms you need, and outlined all of that for them. And so that was kind of our first step. And so now we just have to figure out how best to support them.
And I know that there's certification and different trainings out there, and I only say that because we have to take it in my field, but I think that that would just be helpful to help prepare those students, especially on the high school level, to be able, because when they get a certain age, parents can't advocate for them as much. And so just to help them through that process to be able to do that, because those are lifetime. I mean, if you're diabetic, that's something lifetime, right? I mean, so those are things that you need to be able to know how to help yourself with.
I was a process coordinator at Park Hill High School for about 15 years, and some of my favorite meetings were always the ones where my students had turned 18, because I was like, oh no, mom doesn't get to sign this, you have to sign this
Right.
now. So
Right.
some of those initial learning how to adult.
Yes.
It's very important.
Yes.
Well, to Sharika's point, I mean, I guess I'm a little disappointed that you would have to put together a information packet for them, because I feel like they should know that.
Right. That's why I was like, aren't the
So,
people that in those positions
They should already
be
know the things.
like a special education teacher
Yes.
or a counselor or.
I mean, I'm glad you did.
But I'm
and
saying,
appreciate
the
that's a
people
first
that should
step,
be
but-
in those positions, I think should already, when we put them in those positions, should already have this kind of experience for those positions. It's just my thought process.
I agree.
I hear that.
Thank you. Okay, and then the next goal is fostering an inclusion mindset. So we want to make sure, again, where there's collaboration with gen ed and special education so that they can make instructional decisions, providing training and resources for all of our special education staff. And then the components of this plan will focus on student academics, behavioral, and social growth. And then, so how does this align with our district strategic plan? And so this hits under Objective 1, which is academics and teaching for learning, and Objective 2, which is culture, so the sense of belonging, the DEIB work with drivers and narratives. This is where we really worked with our community council to focus on the DEIB and being able to be a part of their DEIB councils. And then also focuses on systems, so adding staff and resources.
So I want to go back to my question about goals, because I know you laid out kind of on each slide a goal, but I feel like the bullet points on this are more aspirational and not specific plans. They just kind of generalize it through this plan, it's going to be this way, and not specific steps that we're going to take to ensure that these things are going to happen. So do we have that, or are we just assuming this plan is going to naturally take care of all these things?
Well, I think most of this is also within our special services program, where we have identified goals that for the whole program, which is also aligned with this content as well.
Okay. Can we see more of the detail of those goals and the steps that we're going to take to achieve them? Thank you.
And can I just say to Janice's point about all the goals and everything else, is this, now that, I mean, you both are fairly new to this position, so it's like fresh eyes. Are you guys re-looking at this? This is kind of why this is coming, as well as the need for our specialized students and families? I'm just trying to understand like where this all came from, you know, because we're developing. Is this where the basis of it is? The foundation?
Yes,
Because it's
assessing the programming and assessing, because that's part of my job, is to assess where we're at with student programming, you know, with staffing, with instruction, those pieces regarding special education. So.
I think you guys have seen this slide or a similar slide, but to this before, but based on feedback from our community and student needs as discussed in recent IEP meetings, there have been some changes made from that original plan, and those are indicated in red on this slide. And so those are that at Chin, the grade levels have been updated to reflect K-5 program for intensive needs. The social communication classroom at Angeline Washington has changed to a cross-categorical K-5 classroom. Lion Creek grade levels have been updated to reflect K-5, and Tiffany Ridge will have an added classroom for students with intensive needs in grades 3 through 5.
So part of the feedback that we received from our focus groups is that it was confusing at Line Creek, for example, if it said cross-categorical K through 2, because what we were originally doing was indicating that the students currently in that program are K through 2. But what it communicated to the public was, in 3rd grade, now I have to go to another school. So we wanted to make that correction to say that you would not have to go to another school. It's K-5. We were marking what the current grade levels were. So that's what you see the corrections for Chin, for Line Creek, and then adding an intensive program at Tiffany Ridge, we were able to do the same thing. So that's what you're seeing reflected based off feedback.
So on this slide, I think if I had to say one thing is a summation of the feedback I've been getting, it's this. So in my head, I want to like break this up into 2 parts. The first part is transitioning from this school year to next school year. And then the other part is our big picture improvements of the overall program. So, and like I said, this is where all the feedback seems to be coming from. And there's a lot that goes into this, right? Each one of these lines is there's students in that classroom, there's teachers in that classroom, and there's TAs in that classroom.
Correct.
In Angeline, Washington, and Tiffany Ridge, those are newer facilities with better, bathrooms and
complex
and
needs.
so there's a lot of theory and information that goes into this, and I just want to make sure we all understand it. I want to make sure I understand it. That it's not being done to, segregate kids. It's to try to best use our physical resources and our human resources to try to give the best special education program we can give for our students. So just wanted to, I guess, throw that out there, and then I don't know where I'm going next, but.
Can we receive information on the 42 kids that are not going to their home schools and what their home schools are and where they're going, and maybe some reasons why, if we could?
Well, the reason why in general is going to be because of the IEP team decision. When they go through the IEP and determine what the needs of that kid would be, then they're looking for the appropriate program in there. One of the things that I learned, I asked this question directly when I was speaking with a large group out at Green Hills Library that was providing feedback and concerns about this particular configuration right here. And I asked the question, is the gold standard from a parent's perspective to have one of these classrooms, cross-categorical, intensive, social communication and behavior support in every single school? And the parents' answers was yes.
That's what I would assume.
The problem with that, obviously, is that from a just capacity standpoint, both for the quality of what we can offer to students, for the human resources and capital resources that we have, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of another 25 teachers and some other things that are extremely, and I don't even know if that's the best decision, because then you end up with kids in classrooms of 1 or something like that. And so that's partly what we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen as well. So these were things that we were challenged with, but we can certainly get you that information about those 42
I don't know.
kids.
I don't know if I'm asking for the right information, because I just want to make sure that the way it's set up provides the most inclusion for our kids.
Okay.
And so I guess I would like some sort of information to say specific reasoning on if every building doesn't have full service of being able to include the kids that should go to their home school. whether it's because there's only going to be one
Right.
kid in one child in a class or whatever it is, some sort of justification for why we don't have a full service of for all inclusion of kids at every building. And that's what I'm looking for when I say, why are they not going to their home school? Not
Gotcha.
necessarily, I don't want to hear their IEP discussion or what the IEP team came up with. I want information on kind of how it was
Why was that
decided that
program
these,
not-
how it landed on this.
Okay.
And why we
Yeah,
don't,
because, like,
why
in-
can't we provide things for the, across this thing?
Right.
Even if it comes down to Hawthorne only has one class or, whatever it is, I would like justification on why we landed on this.
Okay.
Or is it
And I
because like
wanna-
the Angeline Washington, sorry about that, Scott, I'm sorry. Is it like, because I mean, we toured Angeline Washington and we see like the bathroom facilities, and I'm pretty sure like those facilities are not at Lion Creek. You know, like
Yes.
those, you understand, like, I'm just like, those.
That was my point with the goals, because it just kind of said, oh, it's going to provide more accessibility on the
Yeah.
buildings. I'm like, well, how is that if Lion
Right.
Creek doesn't have that? Or
Right.
I want to see specific plans on how that's going to be played out.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
So I want to understand that a lot of the feedback I heard was, well, they're moving me to a different place. So, but there are 30 students right now, they're not at their home schools.
That's
So
correct.
How does that 30 map to the 42 is what I'm.
Yeah, that's the question I think Mr. Terwilliger asked earlier about, are some of those kids ones that are currently already not in their home school? We can get that information and look at those kind of pieces there. We can look at the information relative to why a particular, decision couldn't be met at their home school. I think I'm hearing two things for inclusion as well, and maybe I'm off on this, but and you guys correct me if I'm wrong. But what I'm hearing is that there's this inclusion idea about including me in my home residence school. And there's this idea about inclusion that we're talking about from a special education perspective. All of these students have access to the general education, obviously, because they are in our schools that have general education programming. But I'm hearing you, I just want to make sure I got this right, is that the question of how did, sometimes we had to make a decision about this went to a certain place because of what Ms. Barnes was talking about relative to a higher quality potential or a facility need, a staffing need. This is part of Park Hill 2034, and the idea that we've got additions that are going to be going into some of those aging facilities, and how do we involve programming decisions in those particular pieces in the capital needs that we might have in the next few years. So all of that is part of this, but certainly we can get you that information.
And just some of the, I guess, statistics I came up with is, it looks like before we had 37 classrooms and after there's 41. So that's an increase of 4. The elementary level goes from 22 to 23, but we added a building. And then middle school goes from 7 classrooms to 9, and high school goes from 8 to 9. So there is a 4 classroom increase from the end of this year to next year. And then I know like Plaza only has a cross categorical, while Congress has more space and there's more programming there. But other than that, this is all, I feel like, is focused at the elementary level. Because if I'm reading this right, there's no real changes. I know there's changes, but at the secondary level, there's no real changes, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, so it's elementary.
It's elementary.
And it's these, yeah. So I just want to kind of zero in on the issue.
Yes.
And it's the locations at the elementary level.
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Kimball, you said the IEP team is the one who makes a decision for what the student needs. And I know that IEP meetings includes every touch point of that student, from parents to specialists and everything else. Are they not parents? When are they brought into that decision?
Parents are part of that.
Are they part of the team?
They're part of the team.
Okay, just want to make sure that that's.
Yep.
They're part of that.
They're a part of
Okay.
the meeting.
And then this is going to be one of those classic board, it's a tough decision, right? There's sometimes, and it stinks, right? I wish we could have everything we needed for every classroom and every building and for every student. And that's why I said there's these two parts. I want our long-term goal to get there, but it's for next school year, we got to figure out what's the best. And it's maybe seeing that data, as Ms. Boland said, would be.
Well, and I do appreciate that, sorry, the extra clarification around, because that was a lot of the feedback that I was hearing and a lot of the anxiety that I think parents were feeling, you know, it wasn't listed because there weren't going to be students there, but then that left that question. So I think that for me was a big kind of piece that I'm very appreciative that you put that information there so that families know they're not going to just leave because that's not going to be there.
Right.
I'm gonna tie in this with what we did last, when we had our previous board meeting and the EL, and I know that there are some students who are that and SPED both, and I just wanna make sure that the communication and the parents understand, you know, that those processes.
Yes.
Because I mean, like if a letter went out to someone and they don't quite understand that, or if they sat in an IEP meeting, did they really understand the information that was told to them about their students? Because, I mean, it's one thing to, you know, have a parent-teacher conference, you know, for your student in a different language. But if you have, your student has special needs and all these people are making decisions, and do I really understand these decisions and what they mean for my child? I just want to make sure part of our DEIB, like we are including people and making sure equity and people understand these processes, because sometimes those people and those students can get lost in this process because, you know, there's two different things that need to be happening at that same time.
Right. Yes, and I do know our process coordinators have been working with our families, and they've been communicating with families, our process coordinators and instructional coaches multiple times. So, and especially with our families that have special education and ELD, they've been working with those families, contacting those families and working through the transition piece of it. So they've been having multiple meetings.
You know, somebody had asked earlier about what the teams looked like and where the school psychologist would go, and I said there was a slide coming up about that, and this is this slide. So one of the things that one of our parent focus groups shared was clarity needed for understanding those school teams, and this slide does visually represent that. You can see kind of the schools that are grouped together in their feeder patterns with the school psychologist and a process coordinator for each trio of elementary buildings, and then as well as 2 middle schools combined, and then we've paired Park Hill High School with Russell Jones and Park Hill South at Lead. And so you can see on each line there's a school psychologist and a process coordinator for each of those groups of buildings, as well as one special education instructional coach for those specialized classrooms. At the elementary school, the specialized coach will cover 6 buildings, and then at the middle school, one specialized coach will cover the 4 buildings, and then at the high school level, the 3 high schools in Russell Jones. In addition to those process coordinators, school psychologists, and coaches, we also have 1.5 assistive technology specialists. We have somebody that's a half-time speech language pathologist and half-time assistive technology specialist. That's how we have 1.5. And then we also have 1 elementary resource instructional coach. Our assistive technology specialists cover the entire district, and that 1 resource coach covers all of the elementaries. So we're hopeful that in future years we can add a secondary resource coach, as well as add some support to those assistive technology facilitators, because 1.5 of them for every building in the district. We have a lot of kiddos that have assistive technology needs, and they do a really excellent job covering that, but we could always use more support for them. So we're hopeful that that could be something that we look at in the future. And then clarifying who does what within those roles is something that we hope to do, or that we intend to do for parents. Our school psychologists are hired to help with mental health needs as well as student behaviors and run that evaluation process. So when a parent requests a special education evaluation for their child, that school psychologist will be the one that runs that process. Then if the student's determined eligible, that IEP process, the individualized education plan process, will be run by the process coordinator, and then they will be at each annual IEP meeting thereafter.
So I assume all of that is going to be spelled out for the parents with like contact information, because like this
Yes.
clarity
Yes.
does not help me
Yes.
whatsoever if I'm a parent. And like, how quickly are we planning on being able to get that to our parents? When you say we plan to do that, is that like next week, next year, what?
So we would do updates. We currently have all of the staff on our website. We would, once we have our hiring completed and everyone placed, then we would update that over the summer for the following school year.
But I guess when you say you have staff, I know everyone's staff, the staff is listed on the website, but if you don't know what staff you're looking for, that doesn't help you. So if I'm going to Hawthorne, I don't know still who, I mean, I could contact everybody on there if I wanted to, but I still don't know who to contact for whatever I'm doing, for whatever my question is, if I'm a SPED parent.
So what you're asking for is Hawthorne, the school psychologist, the name, the process coordinator, and the name. Yes,
Right,
that's what we would post.
Okay, so that will be on the website?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, but
spelled
by
out, like
next year?
who's my
By
who's my
next
main
year.
contact if
Right.
I have something. Who's that first person I call?
Yes.
But this is just for IEPs, not 504 coordinators?
Yes, this is for IEPs, students on IEPs.
So we don't have any kind of similar for our 504?
For
helping parents navigate that process?
The 504 process is different in that there isn't the same testing process. So we can, I don't
But
know
I
if they're
mean,
listed on there right now.
for even supports throughout it, if parents have questions or issues and so forth, I mean, what resources do those parents have?
Or how do I even go about doing that process?
Are they listed
So
on our website now? I honestly don't know if they are.
Yeah, my plan is to revamp the website, and because I've already looked at other districts and how they kind of set up their websites. So to put all of that information on there with like questions that parents might have, like question answer type of thing, so that they know, they can go to the website and find some information, know who to contact for each thing, know where the locations are, the programs are. So that's gonna all be revamped.
That's great,
So-
because I know this is much more complicated
Yes.
than the 504 process, but that doesn't make that process any less difficult for those parents and those families.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
And those school psychologists will be just for IEP evaluation, not for other students, but mental things that may come up.
They will also be a part of the tier 3 teams. So they will be helping support our part of our MTSS process, but it'll be the tier 3 where they may sit on like the team whenever students are, if the team is thinking that they've looked at the data and they're ready to do a referral for special education. So they may give strategies and things like that to help support.
So after announcing and contacting families about program locations, we received feedback, and we were just wanting to make sure we acknowledge those additional opportunities with the community where we were listening. The first session, April 1st, was our Special Education Community Council, where we did a listening session, getting feedback. That helped us create the screencast and the frequently asked questions that we sent out. You can see April 9th, we sent that out with a survey link where families could give feedback on the clarification that they were asking for. And they could also choose to join a parent focus group that we would host in addition to what we already have here. April 14th, with Dr. Kimbrell, we attended the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee with PTA. That was done at the Green Hills Library. And then April 30th, we hosted our parent guardian focus group, and Dr. Dial helped lead us through a protocol on getting feedback for additional information. And that's what we were able to combine all of those things and bring it to you today about how we're responding. Adding to my list I hear is we are wanting clear contact lists of who to contact as we're going through these processes. That can feel overwhelming for our families.
Mrs. Woodley just said something that raised a question. it's hard to find psychologists right now. Are we gonna be able to find these psychologists?
Yes, we've already hired 5 so far.
I think we have one.
Well, yes. Well, we have 2 more.
Okay.
So we've
Okay.
hired, 4.
Very good.
In addition, the community feedback, we have 4 main categories. The first one is communication. So we've been asked for a lot of clarity. What are those program descriptions? So we would like to add more detail to that and provide clarity for parents. The ones that we shared could seem confusing to parents. So for example, one of our focus group members commented, well, that could be autism, or this one. And so while that's true, because we might have different severity of needs if your child has autism, it still didn't communicate what does that room look like and what kind of supports would be available. So we'll be adding detail to those things. Also for behavior programs, how do students qualify for our different behavior programs? What is that process and information like? So we want to share that. We do have a process, but we need to make sure our families are aware of what that is. Transparency, so really asking for, can we have the minutes? Can we have the information? Can we add virtual options to our focus groups or our special education council meetings? And also asking to communicate district-wide. So we've already started talking to Ms. Wachel about how can we do this district-wide. What are some things we could add to our newsletters, to our website, to our social media, so that more parents feel connected and in the know about what's going on. Continued is also parent engagement, so asking for more focus groups, more sessions with our special education community councils, and continue our caregiver nights. So you have those available to you. We already have them scheduled for next year. And they are on our website, and so we'll be sending those out as well.
Are there virtual options for those?
For caregiver nights,
Yes.
we don't have those virtual.
For the special education council sessions, are those virtual? Like where
This year
someone-
they weren't, but that's what we would be looking into. How can we do more virtual opportunities for parents that cannot attend? They're
Are we
also
looking into that for parent guardian feedback. I mean, caregiver nights and those kind of educational opportunities, because I feel like this population especially would have trouble getting
Right.
away to be able to come here for a
We do have childcare at many of the caregiver nights, but we definitely want to look into the virtual. They've also asked to explore activities, Special Olympics, communicating disability awareness days and months. Through our DEIB council work, we have designated months. If you remember from our work session where we talked about that, October has been designated Disability Awareness Month, but our focus groups are telling us we would like more of those and the more specific days and awareness events. Then feedback about program locations. So specifically about siblings, making sure siblings can attend school where their brother or sister may be attending due to programs. So we want to ensure we can do that whenever possible. The grade level concerns to ensure K-5 programming. We talked about how we made those corrections so it doesn't just say K2 and you wonder what happens at 3rd grade. Grade level spans, there's a general understanding for how grade level spans are beneficial. So we've received feedback from teachers and from parents about, well, I have a kindergartner and they're in a class with a 5th grader, so they understand that the K2, 3, 5 is helpful. And so we'd like to offer that more, but we also know that we're trying to stair step and offer what we can at this moment based on the students we have and their needs. We would like, the parents would like programs in their resident home schools. So that goes back to, again, what Dr. Kimbrell and Ms. Bolin were talking about for inclusion. We were really focused on inclusion in the classroom, rightful presence, and how we're improving that relationship for co-teaching and being in the grade level. what we're hearing from our parents is inclusion to them means being in their resident homeschool. So how can we offer more of that? Looking into those things. Then we've been asked to pause or stair-step the plan and find ways to move less students. So again, we would be continually evaluating how can we do that. The plan you saw represents about 253 students. And for most of them, we were able to do that and want to continue looking for how we can improve. And then the focus groups told us they want to ensure that location of services is an IEP team decision, and we agree. That should be something done at the IEP table with the team, with the parents that are there, to make the best decision based on their goals and what kind of services they would need. Finally, on staffing, our focus groups are asking for more behavior supports, hiring additional staff at the building level and more instructional coaches, and more training for our teachers and staff, and not just special education teachers and staff, but general education. And so that is also what we're working on for professional development, how we can offer more opportunities for our teachers to get that training.
Okay, so moving forward, so we want to stay dedicated to incorporating our feedback and our work within the Special Services Department and continue to improve and address the concerns from our teachers, our parents, and guardians. And so we will continue to have additional focus group sessions. We'll increase communication and newsletters. We will continue with our quarterly Special Education Community Council, and that will include like guest speakers and informational things for information for our parents, specialized program locations. So we've made a couple changes to improve clarity with the grade levels. We're adding an additional program at Tiffany Ridge, changing a program at Angeline Washington. We are going to do a district-wide survey to all stakeholders for feedback and input about our Special Services Department and school experience, because from our focus groups, we heard that everyone would like to be included and give feedback on that. So we will be doing that in the fall. And then additional and continued training for our administrators, teachers, and our teaching assistants. And we will continue to work on the long-range facilities plan, addressing the needs, and ensuring that our parents are able to be a part of the design teams and committees to provide their input.
I'm curious, is there a reason we're waiting until the fall to do the survey for everybody? Because then there's not really much time to make any changes for next year if we wait until next year.
Yeah, we think that the plan that we have right now is changed to the place that we need to be moving forward to how we're going to start this next school year. A lot of tonight, whether it's this presentation and other information we're trying to get in front of the public, is about what the beginning of the school year would look like. And then these particular process improvements would be something that we want to continue as we get into the fall. But I think parents deserve to know, that this is where we're at. And that was one of the things we heard was clarity is something that they need right now. And so I think we need to be clear on where we're going to be. These IEP team meetings have happened, and parents have these expectations. And now we need to figure out how do we improve by doing things like focus group surveys, things that are on a regular basis.
I would agree with, I don't know that it's logical to do it before the fall, just based on where we are in the school year, but I would hope that would be early fall and not end of November, fall.
Okay. Sure.
And can we include staff in this? Because I guess kind of what I'm hearing maybe doesn't jive with what I'm hearing from staff. So, and I might be hearing from a very small percentage of staff, but so I would like to be able to get information from this survey in the fall for feedback.
Yeah, our focus group really wanted to make sure it was everybody.
Right.
Teachers, parents, administrators, everyone.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you for this presentation. I really appreciate the clarity that you've brought. I really feel like I understand better the what and the why. I think the why especially has been clear the whole time. But I think that there could be some more explication as we go forward with the how and the when. I think that those really need some more development.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening and thank you for your feedback tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, yep, thank you so much for your presentation tonight. All right, next we have 7.3 Electronic Personal Device Task Force presentation. Dr. Kimbrell, Dr. Dial, and Dr. Bruton.
All
right, good evening.
Presentation.
It's not. But an important one.
Good evening, and also welcome. Since implementing our cell phone policy that we put in place, or practices that we put in place in the middle school starting in August of last year, we've had a lot of conversation about getting a group together to talk about what does that mean for high school coming up. So we have Dr. Bruton, I believe it's Ms. Jepson, is that right? Okay, and we'll be presenting the task force process and recommendations as we move forward to the fall 25 and where we're at with that. Dr. Bruton?
Thank you. Thank you, board, for having us this evening. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be joined by one of our task force members and a parent in the district of 3 students at 3 different levels this evening to kind of share with you our journey this late winter and spring as we looked into this issue as a task force group. As Dr. Kimbrell mentioned, we made some changes at the middle school level and the elementary level and what our practices were this last year, but we knew at the high school level, we probably needed to bring together a group of folks, of students, parents, staff members in the buildings, because it's a little different beast at the high school level than maybe at some of our other grade spans. This work is largely based in our cultural objective of our strategic plan, where we want to include voices in the decision-making process and give people a sense of belonging and maintain a positive culture and environment in our schools. And so in that effort, as we look through that, we kind of worked with this group under a common primary goal, and I'm going to turn the floor over now to Ms. Jepson to share some of that with you.
Yeah, so the primary goal was to go over what the current practices are at the high school level, to look at any relevant information out there as far as statistics on how things are going with mental health and academic and things like that, of how it is affected by the cell phones being in the room, and then also what our recommendations would be moving forward for next year. The 3 primary concerns were the distractions and disruptions that happen in the class and how that affects the academic development of the students, the significant changes in mental health that have kind of come about in the last 10 to 15 years with the introduction of smartphones and how that affects the classroom, as well as just the increase in disruptive and violent and illegal behavior that the phones can aid in happening at the school setting. The task force was made up of 30 people. There was parents, staff, teachers, students, and administrators. So we kind of had a voice from everybody. At any given meeting, there was about 25 people in attendance. And then it just kind of goes over the dates and different things that we talked about at each meeting. The first one being just kind of talking about our introduction, what the purpose of it was, going into what the current practices are at Park Hill, in the whole district. And then the third meeting, I think the February 11th meeting was really the most effective. We really delved into the research out there that shows just kind of the staggering statistics that show the increase in mental health, anxiety, suicide, depression, the decline in some academic things, as well as just social aspects of people getting together less in person and attention span, all of those things. And we're really able to take a deeper look into that. And then the last 2 sessions, we just kind of went into work trying to look at, in light of all of that, better and do better, how can we implement that into a recommendation for next year for Park Hill?
Was there February 11th is an expert opinion. Was there an actual expert there or
No,
just research?
Research, yeah. In addition to that, we also conducted a series of optional surveys that were sent out to stakeholders that would be most affected by this, and that's our current high school student population, 9 through 12, where you can see we have 2,055 respondents. Our 9th through 11th grade parents, since they would be their students most affected by any changes that might be made. We had 665 parents respond to that survey, and then we had 145 staff members respond to their survey. We got it asked some general preliminary questions, and so we had a good mix of parents, students, and staff members from all 3 of our secondary comprehensive sites that were really representative of a diversity of opinions, perspectives, and viewpoints. In the student survey, some of the key takeaways that came across is that students found that their devices have productive uses, and they often consider them their go-to device to be used. They also, through their information, it came across that they were against something that was punitive and punished the whole for maybe the wrong behaviors of a select few. Access to their device, they felt, gave them often a sense of control in their life and personal autonomy that was, age appropriate for them. I would also highlight that 71% of the students who responded reported that they do use their personal electronic devices daily during instructional time for non-academic purposes. And they listed that the 4 most common things that they use their device for during that time is texting or sending personal messages, streaming or listening to music, checking social media apps, and watching videos. On the parent survey, parents definitely, one of the strongest things that came across was worries about phones disrupting the learning, and the suggestion that the policy should be tailored to minimize classroom distractions without being overly punitive. There was a strong desire out of the information that came through the survey to see something that was fair and equitable for all students and consistently applied from classroom to classroom and school to school. While the phones should be controlled, they felt in general in the school setting, they also recognized practical uses for them, especially the idea of communicating with their child, but the communication between parent and child. Parents listed these as their top 4 concerns. Distractions and disruptions or off-task behavior during the school day, students taking or posting audio or visual or pictures of their student without their student's consent, mental health impacts related to social media and or peer communication, and viewing inappropriate material or content on the device. And the staff also recognized things that rose out of their survey as large takeaways were that a personal use device is a significant disruption to the learning environment and negatively impacts student engagement, attention, and ability to academically perform. It also highlighted managing the behaviors with student use of personal devices was a challenging thing in their classroom that needed more clear, consistent school-wide policy that supported enforcement that doesn't vary from classroom to classroom. While recognizing the potential of technology and learning, staff emphasized that personal devices are while a tool, are more used for personal reasons that are not necessary in the classroom and do create significant disruption during the school day. 89% of staff reported that they regularly, on a daily basis, observe students using these devices for personal reasons during instructional time, and 81% of them identified it as a top 3 to 5 problem that needed to be addressed in the schools.
So after kind of taking a look at all of that, the recommendation that we as a group put together is just kind of some of the highlights of it. And we had recommended that there's no use during the school day, meaning any class time. So they would be allowed during passing periods and during lunch. However, we were kind of split on the lunch situation. I think to some people it felt like a happy median, kind of a compromise in the beginning. We would like to see it reevaluated at semester maybe, because I think it does kind of it focuses a lot on the disruption and distraction for academic, but it kind of takes away the social aspect of it. We want to see kids in the lunchroom talking to each other and communicating with their friends as opposed to, sitting on their phones and stuff. So that's something to look at moving forward. There would be a tiered discipline plan that would be readily available. Everyone would know what it was in terms of what are the steps that are taken if the rules are not followed. It would be off their body. We think that physical separation would be an important aspect of it in terms of whether or not that's a lockbox or the caddies on the back of the doors that some teachers use now, but that the students would kind of check in their phone at the beginning of class period and take them with them when they leave each day. And then clear communication plan to students, family, and staff. I think that's a really important one because, like I said, there were people in the meeting that kind of felt one way, and as we looked at all the information and saw the data, it was hard to not be compelled to change it. And so I think giving some of that information to the students and the staff and to the parents and the community so that they know kind of where that was coming from. It's easy as a student to be like, no, I don't want my phone taken away, obviously. But when you're looking at the statistics and seeing what is actually happening, it's really staggering and it's hard to deny or to argue with. So I think that's an important part. And then also another really big thing was that there would be consistency across all the buildings, that every building would be the same, that every teacher is on board, that they are aligned, because if it's not consistent, then it doesn't work. And that's kind of what's happened now with what the handbook says versus the reality of what's happening in the classrooms. And so that there is very clear expectations and boundaries from the teachers and staff, and that the teachers are also modeling that behavior. And then other than that, there would be a few exceptions, obviously, whether it's medical needs or there's a certain class project that they're needed to be used. And we recommended that there be some sort of process to go through that, whether it's filling out a form or something, but that it's clearly cut in their curriculum or something, that there's a specific reason for needing it, that there would be kind of an option for that. And then also one of the concerns that people said was just that sometimes there are really last minute changes and information coming from coaches and stuff as far as practices changing and stuff, and that needs to be clearly defined earlier in the day so that they're not, that can be an email or something, so that they're not needing that at the end of the day. So those were kind of some of the general things that we highlighted and what our recommendation for next year would be.
You may also be aware that the state of Missouri legislature has pending legislation in relation to this topic as well. It is changing by the day, and a little bit of this slide is inaccurate because yesterday there was a new release that changes some of the language that is proposed. Nothing has been passed into law at this time, but certainly both bodies of the legislature, the governor, have signaled their support for this. It seems relatively bipartisan. Senate Bill 68 seems to be the one that is prevailing at this moment in time. However, there is a competing House bill as well. The proposed legislation as of yesterday, calls for districts to adopt a written policy effective the next school year. That has gone back and forth a couple of times between next school year and the following school year, 26-27. As of yesterday, it also proposed a restriction. Previously, it had allowed some time for it to be used during maybe passing period or things. The most recent version is a prohibition from start of school day to end of school day. And so we do not know at this time exactly where the legislature will land on this issue, or whether this will cross the finish line by May 16th when the legislative session ends. But we are watching that very closely. As you probably note in some of the comments I just made, most of what the task force has recommended is relatively in alignment. However, we would probably need to tighten up should the present, as of May 7th, language, we would need to tighten up, like at meal times and passing periods. And we may not need to revisit that conversation depending on whatever action the legislature takes.
So the next steps, the processes are already underway to implement this for next year. Student Services and Communications Office are working on getting that information out, whether it's flyers hung in the building, emails to teachers or to parents and stuff like that. And then the handbook will need to be updated with all of the new guidelines and all of that verbiage. And then obviously we will keep and following along with the legislative action that could change some of that.
So now we have any questions from the board, we would be happy to answer about our process and or our recommendations.
I think it's, thank you for all your work that you did on this. I think it's a good concept. I do like the fact that we made sure we took exceptions for medical needs, because like for diabetes and stuff, you know, you have to use your cell phone to see if your sugar, especially if you have that.
Your hearing aids.
And, yeah, your hearing aids and different things like that. So, you know, in whatever process that needs to happen, I mean, I don't know, do people just have a note? Do they have to get a 504? I'm just asking. I don't know what the the whole process is.
Well, yeah, actually, that's a great point, because some students actually do have it written into their 504 plan that allows it. So how would it impact that?
Yeah, and so 504 teams would need to make those decisions. So to answer your question, a lot of those students may have an individual health plan, some assistive device use may be written into an IEP or a 504 plan. Those are all documented, and there's already an established process for that.
Okay.
We may have other students who may have intermittent need where it doesn't really qualify for any of those particular plan processes, but we would want to create a separate process where we, we documented, approved, and processed and monitored such things, as well as any other permissible allowances that might need to be made. And so we'll need to make a supplemental for the ones that aren't already governed by an established process.
And we figured that out at the middle school already, right?
Yes, those are already kind of largely in place at the middle school level.
So in 4 years, they'll all just be used to it.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be used to it.
They'll get used to it. Is tutorial, is that class time? Okay.
Yes, tutorial, all class time, tutorial, CT time.
So no
study
streaming music
halls.
during weights class or anything?
Yeah.
Gotta listen to what they're playing in the weight room?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back
We'll
to
survive.
the good old days where you listen to the radio playing through the room.
Eye of the tiger. Oh, we left it to-
I also really want to thank the members of the task force. They worked really hard. Our sessions were jam-packed and full. We often ran a little over, and they were appreciative to stay. We had some wonderful student participants too, and it's not always the most exciting thing for a teenager to come spend their evening with adults. And they really, they were honest. They told us some eye-opening things. It was about the things that they saw, the things that they did. Absolution was given, and we appreciated their participation.
It was also impressive to see, though, that even the students that were involved were all on board with the change, and seeing, even though they do it and they see it as a distraction, they saw the need for it to be eliminated also, which I, as a parent, I was surprised to see that.
You noted in a lot of the findings from the surveys, the discussions, the expert information, everything seemed that cell phones are not good for students, for learning, as well as the environment. So what was the piece, because it's overwhelming to me that there shouldn't be in the schools, because we need our students to be successful learning, as well as being able to engage with other people and just be prepared for a future, as we talked about earlier in the meeting. Why did we not go to a full plan? Just because kids felt to be punitive to take their phone away, or is it?
I think that there was a lot of information, particularly out of the parent survey, that was asking for opportunity to have for they to have a connection point with their child through their personal device during the school day. Concerns about wanting to touch base, arrange schedules, safety concerns related to that. And so the group really wrangled with that for a while. And kind of we went from one end to the other and back again a couple of times, and kind of tried to settle on maybe some middle ground to honor that, unless the legislature says otherwise, to honor that that perspective from the parent voice out of the survey, certainly, and members of the committee. There were certainly members of the task force who also shared that opinion.
Was there discussion, or is this to come down if the legislation doesn't pass, to help our administrators? Is there going to be a policy in place so that they don't have to constantly be on top of teachers on top of students, so that they can still focus in on the learning environment? Is that going to be in policy, so they can direct students and families to this? Is this is what it says, so you need to adhere to that, or if not, this is gonna happen, so that they're not constantly saying, give me your phone, put that away, and then the whole day of learning is disrupted still.
Yeah, we're going to obviously update handbook language and be a little more explicit in what the range of consequences are. We looked at a number of school districts across the region and state to get some samples of ideas, and we kind of settled on, one school district's kind of model is one that we like to maybe emulate. Also creating visuals to be posted in the classroom and throughout the building that kind of articulate that as well as a reference point, and then obviously communication out to families beyond just our natural handbook communication to say, this is a shift in change in practice and procedure for us. Please be aware, this is how we will operate moving forward. And then also follow-up support to administrators and teachers to make sure that their variance comes more into line with the guardrails that have been established from this point forward.
I think part of the issue was that from the teachers involved was that there really wasn't a clear-cut rule, and so they were left to decide on their own. And so some teachers maybe didn't know, like, how far can I go, how strict can I be? And when it's across the board that it's just a rule, then it's easier to follow. And then I think that's why we recommended physical separation, because you don't have that put your phone away if everybody has to put it in, whether it's the lockbox or the things on the back of the desk. All the phones are put away, so they don't have that option to keep pulling them back out. So I think that will eliminate some of the policing, because that was a big teacher concern, was just not wanting the headache of having to police that behavior all the time. And when it's coming from the top down, that's an easier thing to follow.
Were there any, for the putting the phone in a cubby or a shoe organizer, back of door shoe organizer, is there any concerns with, I don't know what could possibly happen, but like phone getting stolen or dropped or by somebody else? I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's any, if your research showed what the best practice there is.
The research really, there's not much that speaks to that as a problem. Doesn't mean that it probably doesn't exist in places, but certainly one of the things that the task force did recommend is that we explore some type of secure place to place these devices in. That could be a wide range of things depending on the particular building, the particular classroom, and whether or not, you think about a place like Lead where many of the door, it's kind of a more open concept, so you might need something a little more secure, because you may not have a closet or an existing structure in the place where you could lock these up. But certainly teacher perspective on that was that they would prefer something that was secure in the event of something like just what you spoke of, that a phone may go missing and stuff, and that would help eliminate maybe some of the risk associated with such things.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I think that's I know we've heard a needle to be threaded a few times, and I think that you've done an admirable job of threading that needle. For better or for worse, cell phones are in the world and they exist, and we have to learn how to deal with them. Our students have to learn how to deal with them appropriately, and I think that what you suggested makes sense to me.
Would we be able to get the questions from the surveys? I would just like to see if there's anything with bullying, threats, or stuff like that was asked to students and other things.
Yeah, their survey results seem to be, that's cool.
That's interesting. I want to thank the board for taking on an extra informational item tonight, and we did this. If you remember last year when we were wrestling with this relative to the middle school practices, we didn't actually get a decision from that group on recommendations until late in the summer, and it was difficult to communicate with families and teachers and so on. So our purpose of this was to get this in front of the board tonight so that we may have this in front of the public. This will go out in our board highlights, and that is one more way we've already communicated with our staff to help with, before the end of the school year, people knowing what the expectations are going to be so that they can start getting their minds around that. So that was the purpose of this. So thank you for your extra attention and time tonight.
Yep, thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, item 8 for tonight is information written. We have information items tonight, 8.1 through 8.3 are relative to bids, contracts, and agreements. 8.7 is related to curriculum. 8.8 is professional development committee plan. Dr. Kimbrell, are there any that you need to highlight?
None to highlight. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions, board? All right, we'll be asked to take action on these at the next board meeting, which is June 12th. All right, now we'll move on to reports and requests. Mrs. Barber, do you have any reports or requests tonight?
None, thank you.
Ms. Boland?
Thank you.
Mr. Monzos?
I do. I want to know why there was a bomb threat and I don't know about it. That disturbs me.
Okay. Mrs. Woodley?
Maybe, Dr. Kimbrell, when we have our one-on-ones later on, I don't know if this year or summer or whatever. Would just like to get a gist of like what topics or concerns that come up in the district that are considered to be a committee, I don't think committee worthy, but have to go through a committee to make changes versus things that, district office, the administrators being experts, making that decision and that call, all for student success, just to know the difference.
Sure. Mr. Todd?
None tonight, thank you.
Ms. Barnes?
Yeah, just a couple of follow-ups on some of the presentations that we saw today. I just would like to know on the 504 coordinators, just how we are helping those people to make sure that they are helping our students. It seemed from that presentation that there's not a lot of training or the training is a book and kudos to her for making that book. But I think that we, although, 504 is still part of special education and we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can for our students, especially at the high school level. So I just think we need to look into that, get some more things and information and research on that. Any follow-up you could give them, that would be appreciated.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll now adjourn to closed session. So I'll need a motion and a second to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Chapter 610, Section 021 of the revised Missouri statutes for the purpose of discussing matters relevant to subsections 1, legal 3 and 13 personnel, and 9 negotiations.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Barnes and a second by Mrs. Woodley to adjourn to closed session to discuss legal, personnel, and negotiation matters. Ms. Freeman, can you call the roll?
Barber.
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Boland.
Yes.
Montes.
Yes.
Terwilliger.
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
Woodley. Yes.